Chapter 235. Mr. Feng, are you all right? Mr. Feng, shall I send you to the infirmary? Feng Yuanjing's subordinates rushed forward to help him up when they saw Feng Yuanzheng fall to the ground with a brick. At the same time, they glared at Li Changsheng. Boy, how dare you hit Mr. Feng? Are you tired of living? That's right. We're going to call the police and arrest you. Li Changsheng didn't care about their threats at all. Did you see that? There are so many witnesses, including the leaders of the city. Feng Yuanzheng asked me to hit him with a brick. How can you blame me? Feng Yuanzheng covered his bleeding head and stood still with great difficulty. He looked at Master Yuan next to him. Yuan Lebang's face was extremely gloomy. He couldn't understand how the brick became hard after he cast a spell on it. Could it be that the young man in front of him was also a cultivator? But soon he denied this idea. How could it be possible for such a young man? Leaders, you've seen it. It's obvious that Feng Yuanzheng did it in advance. The brick in my hand is very hard. The leaders of the city were also puzzled. What Li Changsheng said was not impossible. Some of the bricks on the bridge were replaced by Feng Yuanzheng to frame the Junka group. After thinking for a while, Director Liu walked onto the bridge and stepped on a brick on the side of the bridge where he had stepped on just now. This time, the brick broke into 8 pieces. He took a few steps forward and stepped on it again. However, the brick shook his foot and caused him pain. The brick here was indeed harder than the one on the other side. Director Liu tried other places, only to find that the brick was the only one that had become fragile. At this moment, everyone looked at Feng Yuanzheng with a strange gaze. Obviously, they agreed with Li Changsheng that Feng Yuanzheng deliberately framed him. Feng Yuanzheng was anxious when he saw this. He didn't have time to cover the bleeding hole on his head and explained, Director Liu, it's not my fault. It's obvious that the people of the Junka group used inferior materials. It's just that they used inferior materials in some places and slightly harder bricks in some places. As he spoke, he gave Yuan Lebang a look. Now, he could only count on Yuan Lebang. At this time, Yuan Lebang stepped forward. He went to the place where Chief Liu had not stepped on just now and picked up a stone brick. Then, under the watchful eyes of the crowd, he abruptly broke it in half with his hands. Dear leaders, please take a look at this brick. It's made of stone on the outside, but the inside isn't burned through at all. Perhaps it looks quite sturdy at first, but as time passes, the outer layer of hard stone will be damaged, just like tofu dregs. Director Liu took the brick and looked at it. Sure enough, except for the solid exterior, the inside was as soft as tofu, not much stronger than the soil. His face could not help but become gloomy. Originally, he had believed Li Changsheng's words, but now it seemed that Li Changsheng was still quibbling even at the brink of death. Dig up all the bricks over there and smash them to see what's inside, Director Liu said to the people accompanying him. Someone immediately took out a tool and went forward to pry open the brick. Feng Yuanzheng, who had been nervous, calmed down and sneered. Sure enough, this Master Yuan was omnipotent. Just now, he must have gotten lucky and happened to get a brick that hadn't been enchanted with magic. Although he had suffered some injuries, he felt that it was worth it to bring down the Junka group and send Li Changsheng to prison. Yuan Lebang, however, had a faint smile on his face from beginning to end. How could these mortals break the magic of immortals? After the matter was done, the money Feng Yuanzheng promised to give him was enough for him to buy a lot of spirit stones and spiritual medicines. Everything the cultivators did was for Taoism and longevity and for cultivation. Although they looked down on secular rich people like Feng Yuanzheng from the bottom of their hearts, they still needed to cooperate with them. Boss Li, let's accept our fate. Ren Juntang looked at the stone bricks that had been cracked open, and the things inside were like tofu dregs. His heart completely fell to the bottom. He had great confidence in Li Changsheng's ability and background, but at this time, it was clear that he was powerless to reverse the situation. His opponent's means were too brilliant. He had unknowingly turned his bricks into this. No matter how great his ability was, he couldn't turn the tables at this time. It's all right. Li Changsheng cast a reassuring look at Ren Juntang. He's just a clown. I have plenty of ways to deal with him. Haha. Hearing this, Yuan Lebang couldn't help shaking his head. Even Yuan Lebang admired Li Chongsheng a little for being able to set up the Junka group at such a young age. However, he was a cultivator and an immortal in people's eyes. He didn't believe that a mere Li Chongsheng could break his magic. Feng Yuanjing's face was even colder. Just now, he was hit by a brick by Li Chongsheng, which gave him a terrible headache. He couldn't wait to send Li Chongsheng to prison immediately to relieve the hatred in his heart. At this time, 1/10 of the bricks on the bridge had been dug up, and all of them were of the same quality, as Yuan Lebang said. Li Chongsheng could feel that Yuan Lebang's body was constantly emitting a kind of energy which spread from the soles of his feet to the blue bricks under his feet. It was this kind of energy that caused the internal structure of these blue bricks to change. All right. Director Liu waved his hand. The person in charge of digging the bricks immediately stopped. 1/10 of them are like this. It's meaningless to continue digging. Li Chongsheng, what else do you have to say? Director Liu's face was full of coldness. Of course I have something to say. Li Chongsheng looked at Yuan Lebang and said word by word. In fact, these bricks are not shoddy at all. It's just that everyone has been tricked by this man, surnamed Yuan. This man, surnamed Yuan, is a magician. He deceived everyone with a camouflage. Everything we saw was fake. What? As soon as Li Chongsheng's words came out, everyone present was stunned and then couldn't help laughing. Huh. Director Li, don't tell me that you're afraid of being punished by the law and you're starting to talk nonsense. Camouflage? Why don't you say that he knows magic and that what we saw was fake? These bricks are broken easily. Do you think that what we saw and touched with our own eyes is fake? What you saw may not be true. Li Chongsheng spoke again. On the other side, after hearing Li Chongsheng's words, Yuan Lebang's heart skipped a beat. He wondered if Li Chongsheng had seen through his magic. But soon he sneered. Even if Li Chongsheng had seen through his magic, so what? Could it be that a young man with the size of a fart could break his spell? At this time, Li Chongsheng had already taken a step forward. Then, under everyone's puzzled eyes, he gently waved his hand in front of him. Bang! It was like a clap of thunder in everyone's ears. Everyone felt dizzy and their vision turned black. When they opened their eyes again, the bricks that had been dug up and broken into two pieces had been put together again. Even the bricks that had been stepped on at the beginning were intact and still there. Everyone looked at the scene in front of them and was dumbfounded. They were all dumbfounded and full of disbelief. Li Chongsheng looked at Yuan Lebang with a smile. He said with a playful look, Master Yuan, don't you want to say something? Chapter 236. How could this be? Yuan Lebang was scared out of his wits. Just now, he didn't even understand what had happened, and everything in front of him had changed. When he looked up and saw the vague threat in Li Chongsheng's eyes, he couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. Li Chongsheng broke his magic with a wave of his hand and restored the broken bricks to their original state. Such a person had already involved the power of rules. Only a cultivator who had reached an unfathomable level of Taoism could do that. Although it was impossible for a cultivator to stay young forever, it was very easy for him to make Rong Mo younger. Thinking of Li Chongsheng's identity, who was the boss behind the scenes of the Junka group at such a young age, and the means he had used just now, he suddenly felt like a basin of ice water was poured over his head, and his whole body began to tremble. If such a super powerhouse with unfathomable strength wanted to deal with a small cultivator like him, it would be as easy as crushing an ant. At this moment, boundless fear surged in his heart. Under the watchful eyes of the public, Yuan Lebang suddenly knelt on the ground with a plop and kept kowtowing to Li Chongsheng. I was wrong. All of this was an illusion I cast. I'm willing to take the responsibility. Yuan Lebang was a smart man. He knew that Li Chongsheng didn't directly kill him because he wanted him to take all the blame. Sure enough, out of the corner of his eye, he saw Li Chongsheng nod his head imperceptibly. Instantly, his heart calmed down. For an expert cultivator like him, being locked up in prison was not something to be afraid of. There were not many places in the world that could trap them, and offending a super expert like Li Chongsheng was the scariest thing of all, because such a powerhouse could easily end their lives. Master, Master Yuan. Feng Yuanzheng was confused and his mind was a little blank. He couldn't believe what was happening in front of him. Feng Yuanzheng, you hired a Jianghu sorcerer to make such a scene and frame the Junka group. Why don't you confess now? Li Chongxing shouted. Only then did Feng Yuanzheng react. Just as he was about to defend himself, Yuan Lebang tugged at his sleeve and said in a low voice, "Hurry up and confess. You can't afford to offend this person in front of you. He can take your life without anyone knowing. You can't afford to offend such a person." When Feng Yuanzheng heard Master Yuan's words and saw Li Chongxing's half-smile, he instantly understood something. It turned out that it wasn't that Yuan Lebang's spell had failed, but that the person in front of him was even more terrifying than Yuan Lebang. He had already seen Yuan Lebang's godlike means, and this time, he was in complete despair. "I plead guilty. I framed Jinka Group for all of this." Hearing Feng Yuanzheng's words, Ren Juntang and the people in charge of the Jinka Group finally felt relieved. Director Lu's eyes also flashed with coldness. "Feng Yuanzheng, you are the richest man in Beijing. How could you do such a thing to frame others? You have to pay the price." At this moment, several police cars stopped in the distance, and uniformed police officers walked over. Director Lu said a few words to the police captain. Immediately, Yuan Lebang and Feng Yuanzheng were handcuffed and taken to the police car. At that time, Feng Yuanzheng had said that he would let Li Chongxing enjoy a pair of metal handcuffs, a yellow vest, and a trip to prison. Now all of these had come true. "Mr. Li, I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable at such a young age. You can even break the camouflage spell. You are really young and promising." Director Lu shook hands with Li Chongxing tightly and then said to Ren Juntang, "Only capable people will be envied. Being framed shows that Junka Group is a good company. If this project is successfully completed, we will have many opportunities to cooperate." Ren Juntang was overjoyed. After Director Lu and others were sent away, the people present in the Junka Group admired Li Chongxing like a torrential river. Unable to stand their enthusiasm, Li Chongxing found an excuse and left in a hurry. He could not stand the way the higher-ups of the section chief were looking at him. The way they looked at him was really unbearable. After leaving the construction site, Li Chongxing returned to the hotel. The matter in Yinjing was completely over. It was time for him to return to Qingzhou. When he was packing his luggage, he heard a noise outside. Because he didn't close the door when he entered, he looked back and saw the room diagonally opposite. Xie Cheng and the other girls had just opened the door and walked out with big and small bags. Obviously, they were going to check out and leave. They had passed the interview of the Junka Group and become interns. The Junka Group arranged a dormitory for every employee, even the interns, so they naturally didn't need to stay in a hotel. Although the price of this hotel was ordinary, it was still a big expense for them, who had just graduated from college. Seeing that the door of Li Chongxing's room was open, Xie Cheng hesitated for a moment and came over to greet Li Chongxing. "Mr. Li, we are moving to the dormitory. Have a good job," Li Chongxing said with a smile. At this time, he had already packed his things into a suitcase. Just as he was about to leave with Xie Cheng and the others, a voice sounded. "Xie Cheng, Feng Jiaying, I'm telling you Li Chongxing's Junka Group is going to be closed down today, but you didn't listen to me." A man walked over. It was Fanja. When Fanja saw Li Chongxing, he froze on the spot as if he had seen a ghost. "Why are you still here? You didn't get arrested by the police?" Then, when he saw the suitcase in Li Chongxing's hand, he suddenly understood something and sneered. "I know, you must have absconded. I'm going to call the police to arrest you." "Fanja, what are you talking about?" Xie Cheng looked at him coldly. "Li Chongxing is the chairman of the Junka Group. What crime could he have committed?" "That's right." Feng Jiaying also snorted. They were very disappointed with Fanja's performance these days. "Xie Cheng, Feng Jiaying, you two don't have any hope for this liar. His Junka Group didn't have enough funds, so he built a shoddy project. It has been checked by the leaders of the city on the spot. I guess the general manager, Ren Juntang, has been arrested by now. He wants to abscond. You don't have to work in the Junka Group. My father knows the chairman of the Feng family's Hung Tai company. I can recommend you to work there which is not worse than the Junka group at all. Fan just said with certainty, which made Fang Jiaying and Xie Cheng confused. They looked at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng smiled coldly. Of course it's not true. The fact is the opposite of what Fan just said. Feng Yuanzheng, the richest man in Yanjing, tried to frame our Junka group, but I exposed him on the spot. Now he has been arrested. After tomorrow, Hung Tai Group will go bankrupt. As for you saying that your father knows the boss of Zhongtai Group, I'm afraid it's because he introduced Master Yuan to Feng Yuanzheng. In this case, your family is also involved in framing me. I'm afraid your father has been arrested now. What? Fanju was stunned. Then he shook his head and said, That's impossible. You're talking nonsense. Then he took out his mobile phone and dialed a number. Hello, Dad. As soon as Fanju spoke, a cold voice came from the other side. This is the Criminal Investigation Detachment of the Public Security Bureau. Fan, Yin has been arrested. You should be his relative, right? Come to the bureau. We need your cooperation with some questions. Before the other side finished speaking, Fanju's mobile phone fell to the ground with a click. As if struck by lightning, he murmured, Impossible. Impossible. Chapter 237. It happened to be Sunday when Li Changsheng returned to Qingzhou. There were no classes at school, so he went straight back to the dormitory. Sure enough, the guys in the dormitory were not there. He called Yang Fan. When the other party heard that Li Changsheng was back, he was very happy. He said that he was going to treat everyone to dinner tonight and asked Li Changsheng to come. After being separated for a few days, Li Changsheng also wanted to get together with the people in the dormitory, so he did not refuse. In the evening, he went to a private room on the third floor of a restaurant according to the address sent by Yang Fan. When he walked to the door of the private room, he saw Shang Jianping. When Shang Jianping saw Li Changsheng, his face was cold. He did not say anything and walked directly to the bathroom. After entering the private room, Li Changsheng saw Chen Wan, Su Ying, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Jiang Tao. I say, Changsheng, where have you been these past few days? You came and went like a ghost. Did you go on a honeymoon with your girlfriend? Why didn't you bring her here? As he said that, he punched Li Changsheng's shoulder and said, half-jokingly, When did I? Li Changsheng did not continue on this topic. After Li Changsheng sat down, Chen Wan took the initiative to walk to his side and sit down. What's the matter? Li Changsheng looked at Chen Wan in confusion. He remembered that Chen Wan had a lot of opinions about him. She blamed everything that happened to her father on him. My father has recovered. He was a little dispirited for a few days. The day before yesterday, he had already started working in the company. He told me that it was not your fault. He also asked me to get along with you. When I asked him what happened that night, he did not say anything. But since my father said so, it seems that he doesn't blame you. I apologize for what I said to you that day. No need, Li Changsheng replied faintly. To be honest, he did not have a good impression of Chen Wan from the beginning to the end. The last time he was willing to help, it was just a small matter. He did not want to have too much contact with her. Seeing Li Changsheng's cold attitude, Chen Wan's face involuntarily revealed some displeasure. She, a great beauty, took the initiative to apologize to him, and Li Changsheng actually treated her with such an attitude. Therefore, she returned to her seat and didn't want to talk to Li Changsheng anymore. Zhang Mingming sat on the other side of the table. She did not raise her head when Li Changsheng came in. Obviously, he did not expect Li Changsheng to come. Not long after, Shang Jianping also walked in and sat down beside Zhang Mingming. His expression was very ugly. Everyone was present, and the dishes were served. There were a lot of dishes, and there were a few expensive signature dishes. Originally, with Yang Fan's family background, he wouldn't spend so much money to treat others to a meal. Moreover, looking at Yang Fan's flattering attitude toward Shang Jianping, Li Changsheng increasingly felt that Yang Fan must have a reason for inviting everyone to this banquet. Sure enough, when the meal was almost finished, Yang Fan stood up and said, Brothers and sisters, I've invited everyone out today because I need your help with something. Yang Fan, we're brothers. If you need anything, just say the word. That's right. Jiang Tao and Zhang Xiaofeng expressed their opinions respectively. Here's the thing. Everyone knows that my family background is ordinary. In a few days, a cousin of mine will get married. I want to get a few good cars for the wedding procession. It just so happens that the cars of the wedding procession company my cousin chose are not of good quality. At that time, I don't know what went wrong, but I bragged that my classmates and friends are all second-generation rich. It's not a problem to get 7 or 8 luxury cars. Brothers, please help me think of a way to borrow a few luxury cars. That's easy. Jiang Tao was the first to speak. You could drive my BMW as you like. Thank you, brother. After Yang Fan finished speaking, he looked at Chun Wan. I also have an Audi at home. Finally, he looked at Shang Jianping. Young Master Shang, what do you think? Shang Jianping was a little unwilling at first, but when he saw Li Changsheng, he nodded. I also have a BMW. I can lend you another one. 4. Yang Fan was a little happy and thanked Shang Jianping again. Shang Jianping said it was a small matter, but his face was full of pride. Yang Fan, how many cars do you need? Su Ying asked. I need a total of 8 cars. Now I have 4. The rest can be rented from the rental company, but I still need a lead car. The lead car has to be more expensive. Jiang Tao rubbed his head. I could have lent you a Rolls-Royce, but your time is a little tight. I'm afraid it's too late. At this time, Jiang Tao looked at Li Changsheng. Changsheng, don't you know Chu Meng, the eldest daughter of the Chu family? The Chu family has a lot of luxury cars. Can you see if you can borrow one from her first? Hearing Jiang Tao's words, Yang Fan's eyes suddenly lit up with hope. Li Changsheng smiled. Forget it. I don't need to ask her for a car. What do you mean? Yang Fan's face was a little disappointed. He didn't expect that Li Changsheng, whom he regarded as a brother, wouldn't even help him with such a small matter. Yang Fan wasn't the only one with such thoughts. Everyone else had the same thought. At this time, Hao Ting had already said, Li Changsheng, you're too much. If Yang Fan has a problem, everyone will think of a way. Aren't you just asking? What's so hard about it? Even Zhang Xiaofeng looked at Li Changsheng with a somewhat strange gaze. Don't say that. Changsheng isn't that kind of person. Jiang Tao defended Li Changsheng. Indeed, he's not that kind of person. I'm afraid he's afraid that after he asks, she will directly reject him. He overestimated his importance in Chu Meng's heart. Shang Jianping sneered. Hearing this, everyone in the room suddenly understood. That was indeed the case. Although Chu Meng stood up for Li Changsheng at the banquet last time, Li Changsheng later explained that it was because he had helped the Chu family. This friendship had already been used last time. If he asked again, the eldest daughter of the Chu family might not respond to him. Changsheng, I'm really sorry for making things difficult for you. I'll think of another way. Yang Fan said this, but he frowned. The other cars were easy to deal with, but he had bragged at the time, saying that it would definitely be over $1 million. But whether it was Chun Wan, Jiang Tao, or Shang Jianping, they weren't top-notch rich second generations. At best, they could be considered third-rate. They really didn't have $1 million luxury car. What should we do? Zhang Mingming shook her head. Sure enough, no matter how many people Li Changsheng knew, it was useless. He still had to have the ability. Shang Jianping didn't even need to think about it to agree to lend Yang Fan a car. But Li Changsheng couldn't help at all. With this comparison, he suddenly felt that choosing Shang Jianping was an extremely wise choice. Chun Wan sneered, thinking, let's see how arrogant you can be. You can't even do such a small thing. However, Li Changsheng shook his head and said, I didn't mean that. What I meant was that there's no need to borrow from the Chu family. I have a Rolls-Royce myself. Chapter 238. What did you say? Chunwan almost exclaimed out loud. Her eyes were wide open. However, her eyes were full of doubts. Li Changsheng actually said that he had a Rolls-Royce. This news was like a bolt from the blue to everyone's ears. A Rolls-Royce costs at least $5 million. Changsheng, don't joke around. Yang Fan smiled bitterly. After all, Li Changsheng was too ordinary. Even if he said that he had a car that cost more than $100,000, everyone would be a little suspicious, let alone a Rolls-Royce among luxury cars. Li Changsheng, which model of Rolls-Royce do you have? Shang Jianping almost couldn't help but laugh and asked deliberately. In his opinion, Li Changsheng probably only knew the brand of Rolls-Royce and didn't even know the models. Sure enough, Li Chongqing thought for a while and said, I think it's the one called Phantom. I don't care much about cars. Huh. Shang Jianping finally couldn't help but shake his head. A person who bought a luxury car and didn't know what series his car was, unless this person treated the luxury car as a bicycle. At first, Yang Fan thought that Li Chongqing was joking. However, seeing his serious look, Yang Fan couldn't help but be speechless. Chen Wan, Hao Ting, and the other girls at the side had a playful look on their faces. From their point of view, Li Chongqing's boasting was too much. A Rolls-Royce and a Phantom? Only a boss with a net worth of hundreds of millions or more can afford to drive it. Li Chongqing smiled and said, I do have a Rolls-Royce. It was given to me by a friend. Because I don't have a driver's license, I haven't driven it, so I don't know much about its performance. Your friend gave you a Rolls-Royce? Ha! Shang Jianping picked up the wine glass and took a sip. His expression was full of mockery. Who would be willing to give a car worth tens of millions to others? How could such a valuable gift be possible? Li Chongqing was purely making up a lie. It was simply ridiculous to the extreme. Shang Jianping didn't need to say anything. Anyone with a bit of knowledge could tell that Li Chongqing was lying and bragging. Originally, after losing to Li Chongqing several times, Shang Jianping felt that Li Chongqing was a difficult opponent. But now, in his eyes, Li Chongqing was just a clown. Rolls-Royce is too expensive. I think we should just use Jiang Tao's BMW as the starting point. Back then, I was bragging too much. Being able to get a BMW is already very good. Yang Fan also didn't have much hope for Li Chongqing, so he said this to give Li Chongqing a way out. But who knew that Li Chongqing didn't take the easy way out? Instead, he shook his head and said, I'm not joking. My Rolls-Royce was really given to me by someone. I'll lend it to you. With our brotherhood, this is just a small matter. Everyone was a bit stunned. They thought that Li Chongqing was too blind. Yang Fan gave him a way out, yet he didn't take it and insisted on it. If Yang Fan really agreed to lend his Rolls-Royce, he wouldn't be able to take it out. Wouldn't that be a great loss of face? Chen Wan shook her head. She was very grateful to Li Chongqing for saving her. But now, the favorable impression she had for Li Chongqing gradually disappeared. A person who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth was really disappointing. Hao Ting and Su Ying lowered their heads at the same time. They didn't want the strange expression on their faces to be seen by others. They didn't have a high opinion of the people in room 305, except for Jiang Tao. Originally, Li Chongqing was considered a bright spot, but now was a guy who didn't know when to back down. Shang Jianping had a playful look on his face. He was looking forward to Li Chongqing's embarrassed look when his lie was exposed. At this time, Yang Fan thought about it and said, Chongqing, I think we should forget about it. How can we forget about it? Since you asked and I have it, what's wrong with lending it to you? Li Chongqing saw the eyes of the people around him and naturally knew what they were thinking. However, as he said, the Rolls-Royce parked that was almost buried. It really needed to be driven out to charge the battery and move around. Since Li Chongqing is so insistent, then Yang Fan, you should nod your head and agree. Shang Jianping said. In order to avoid Li Chongqing's refusal, he continued to add, I'm also very curious about the Rolls-Royce. With my family background, I really can't afford it. I wonder if Chongqing can give me a chance to see your Rolls-Royce? Yeah, I'm also looking forward to it. Zhang Mingming echoed. Well, my car is parked in my villa. Let's go to my villa together. I'll also invite you to visit my home. Li Chongqing said. The people present were even more dumbfounded. Villa? This bragging was a bit too much. A Rolls-Royce Phantom and a villa. This brother really thought of himself as a rich second generation. Looking at the strange look in everyone's eyes, Li Chongqing remembered that his villa was still shrouded in a formation. When they entered, they would be able to feel the rich spiritual energy. If these people saw that something was wrong, wouldn't be good. So, he quickly changed his words. I'll ask my driver to drive the car over. He has a driver? Everyone's expression became more and more strange. Chen Wan had already covered her face. She couldn't bear to look directly and thought to herself, this brother seems to be addicted to bragging. Even Jiang Tao and the others lowered their heads. They were a bit ashamed. It was really too embarrassing to brag like this. Unexpectedly, Li Changxing pulled out his phone in all seriousness and dialed number. Hello, Peng Tiexin, drive my Rolls-Royce here. Okay, that's it. After saying a few words, Li Changxing stood up. Let's go. My place is not far from here. The car will be here soon. Really? Hao Ting asked with a smile. A Rolls-Royce Phantom cost at least 8 million yuan, and the nearest villa area was the Yuani Villa. The houses there cost nearly 200,000 yuan per square meter, and a villa was at least 500 square meters, which was nearly 100 million yuan. Li Changsheng, if that's the case, you're at least a billionaire. Shang Jianpain said with a face full of sarcasm. The surrounding people were also secretly shocked when they heard this. 100 million yuan. This is a wealth that many people can't get in their lifetime. Zhang Mingming's face was full of contempt. Li Changsheng dared to brag because he didn't know the value of these houses. As far as she knew, Shang Jianpain's family also had a villa in this city. Although it was not as prosperous as Yuan One Villa, it was still worth tens of millions. Fortunately, she chose Shang Jianpain, not Li Changsheng. One only knew how to brag, while the other was a real person. Comparing the two of them, the winner was obvious. Just as Zhang Mingming was thinking about this, everyone had got up and walked downstairs. Although they didn't believe it in their hearts, since Li Changsheng said so, they had to cooperate. At most, Li Changsheng would say that the car broke down on the way, or he couldn't come for some reason. Then they would give him a way out. Seeing everyone out of the private room, Shang Jianpain and Zhang Mingming walked last. When they were about to go out, Zhang Mingming suddenly asked, Jianpain, do you think he really has a villa and a luxury car? Ha! Shang Jianpain smiled. Mingming, if one day someone tells you that a monkey is wearing a suit and eating Western food in a Western restaurant and drinking red wine, do you think it's true? Shang Jianpain, I heard you talking behind people's backs. Chen Wan, who was walking in front, suddenly turned back. Shang Jianpain and Zhang Mingming were a little embarrassed. Then they heard Chen Wan laugh and say, but now he's really like a monkey jumping up and down. It's just funny. Chapter 239. Changsheng, why don't you ask your driver to drive the car here? Let's go out and have fun after dinner. We'll see that Rolls-Royce another day. Jiang Tao said to Li Changsheng. He was thinking about how to help Li Changsheng cover up his lie. If he couldn't, he could use his connections to ask someone to get a Rolls-Royce. It would be better than Li Changsheng being exposed in public. Chen was standing not far from the two. Hearing Jiang Tao's words, she looked at Li Changsheng with a sneer. At this time, Li Changsheng suddenly pointed to the street and said, Look, my Rolls-Royce is here. Everyone looked in the direction of Li Changsheng's finger. There was only a country bumpkin car that was speeding towards them. Is that a Rolls-Royce? Don't joke with me. Hao Ting was the first to laugh. It's so dusty that I can't even recognize it. It seems to be a Rolls-Royce. Look, there's a little golden man on it. Zhang Xiaofeng's girlfriend, Shang Shuqin, exclaimed. At this time, the car was approaching. Everyone saw clearly that the dusty car was really a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Everyone's eyes widened, especially Chen Wan, who covered her mouth in surprise. At this time, the car door was opened. Peng Tiexin respectfully walked to Li Changsheng and said, Sir, the car is here. I was going to wash it at the nearby car wash, but you didn't say what you wanted to do. I was afraid that you needed it urgently, so I drove it here. Well, it's okay. It's not too late to wash it later. Li Changxing nodded and looked at Yang Fan. What do you think? Do you think this Rolls-Royce is okay? At this time, Yang Fan's mind was blank. He nodded blankly. Although the Rolls-Royce was dusty, its domineering aura could still be seen from the side. Especially when Peng Tiexin opened the door. The new interior, luxurious configuration, and the unique starry sky roof shocked them deeply. Changsheng, is this really a Rolls-Royce? Jiang Tao was also completely surprised. This Rolls-Royce was the supreme edition of this series. Many things were added, and it cost more than 15 million yuan. At this moment, Shang Jianpain felt as if he had been struck by lightning. Even if his family could barely afford such a Rolls-Royce, he absolutely could not bear to part with it. Zhang Mengming's feelings were extremely complicated. Li Changsheng had a Rolls-Royce with a full-time driver. This seemed to be the standard of a big boss. How could it appear on an ordinary student? Everyone was so shocked that they couldn't be any more shocked. At this moment, Hao Ting, Chen Wan, Su Ying, and everyone in room 305 looked at Li Changsheng differently. Didn't everyone want to see it? Although the outside is a little dirty, the inside is very new, Li Changsheng said. However, no one present was in the mood to appreciate it. At this moment, their minds were filled with questions. He seems to be even more elegant than Shang Jianping. It's fine if he doesn't make a sound, but when he does, he amazes everyone. Zhang Mingming looked at Shang Jianping and then looked at Li Changsheng. For the first time, something called regret rose in her heart. Chen Wan's eyes were dull. Last time at the birthday party, she rejected Li Changsheng, but this time, she suddenly found that she was wrong. With such a status, although his appearance was a little ordinary, it was not important. What was important was that wasn't this the rich husband she had always wanted to find? Shang Jianping's face was the most unsightly. There was a burning sensation on his face. Originally, he wanted to use this opportunity to severely humiliate Li Changsheng, but he did not expect that the end result would be like this. As a result, no one said anything. It was not until a long time later that everyone recovered from the shock. Zhang Mingming and Shang Jianping said goodbye and fled in embarrassment. Although the rest of Chen Wan and others had doubts in their hearts, they did not ask in the end. When Jiang Tao left, he patted Li Changsheng's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. At this time, Yang Fan was filled with joy. This time, he could get back the bragging. Moreover, it was a Rolls-Royce Phantom that was worth tens of millions. He could show off in front of his relatives. After parting with Li Changsheng, Zhang Mingming and Shang Jianping walked together. The others walked together. Do you think Li Changsheng is a hidden rich second generation? Otherwise, he would have a luxury car and a mansion. Su Ying said the question in everyone's mind. I didn't expect Changsheng to be so low-key. I have been pretending to be rich in front of him. Now that I think about it, it is really embarrassing. Although Jiang Tao said so, it was obvious that he was happy for Li Changsheng. I don't think so. Zhang Xiaofeng shook his head. No matter how low-key a person is, it is impossible to be low-key to this extent. Also, didn't you hear Changsheng say that the car was given to him by someone? Do you remember Dr. Zhao, who treated Chen Wan? He said that Li Changsheng's family was kind to him. Maybe it was him who gave it to him. Although Dr. Zhao is a domestic expert, spending more than 10 million to give it to someone is a bit too much. Hao Ting stuck out her tongue. I think it's very possible. I heard from my dad that Dr. Zhao usually treats the rich. He's very rich. In order to repay Li Changsheng's family, it's very possible that he took out 10 million to buy a car. Hearing Chen Wan's words, everyone nodded. It seemed that this was the only way to explain the origin of the Rolls-Royce. But Li Changsheng said that he has a big mansion, which is worth 100 million yuan. When Hao Ting said so, everyone suddenly fell into silence. Yes, it is barely reasonable to say that the Rolls-Royce was given by Dr. Zhao. But who would be so generous to buy a mansion worth more than 100 million yuan? Maybe Li Changsheng is bragging. Otherwise, he should have taken us directly to the mansion to see the car instead of letting someone else drive it here. As for the driver, I have never seen him before. He must have been hired at the last minute. When Zhang Xiaofeng said so, everyone nodded and thought that this was the case. After all, Li Changsheng had always been very poor. Suddenly, he became a super rich person. This was somewhat unacceptable. Even if the car was given to him by someone else, and he is very poor, this also shows his potential. If someone is willing to help him, Li Changsheng may not be unable to enter the upper class in the future. When Su Ying said this, Chen Wan's eyes lit up. She remembered her father's advice to her to build a good relationship with Li Changsheng. He also vaguely revealed that it was a good choice to let Li Changsheng be her boyfriend. At that time, Chen Wan just casually heard it and thought that her father had changed his mind after experiencing a shock. Now it seemed that her father must have discovered something. This Li Changsheng has always been secretly in love with me. If he really has potential, I'll let it be a spare tire first. Once he passes the test, I'll beckon him with my finger, and he'll definitely throw himself into my arms. Chunwan thought so and couldn't help but smile. Chapter 240. After Chunwan and the others left, Li Changsheng saw that Peng Tiexin seemed to have something to say, but was hesitating, so he asked, "Tiexin, after following me for so long, you should understand my personality. If you have something to say, just say it." "Sir, Chunwan and the others were here just now, so I didn't say anything. Something happened in your villa." "What happened?" Li Changsheng saw Peng Tiexin's serious look and knew that it must be something serious. "Your house was burglarized." "Burglarized?" Li Changsheng immediately thought of the ginseng. "Let's go and have a look." Then he got into the car and quickly arrived at the villa. The moment he stepped into the villa, Li Changsheng's eyes revealed a cold look. The box he put the ginseng in had been opened, and the 1,000-year-old ginseng was gone. "Someone dared to steal my things." Li Changsheng turned to Peng Tiexin and ordered, "Investigate it for me. You must find the person who stole my ginseng. I'll make sure he dies a horrible death." At this moment, a cold aura was emitted from Li Changsheng's body. Peng Tiexin couldn't help but shiver. This was the first time he saw Li Changsheng so angry after following Li Changsheng for so long. "Yes, I understand. I'll do it right away." "Okay." Li Changsheng waved his hand. "Inform me immediately if there's any news." Peng Tiexin left tactfully. When only Li Changsheng was left in the villa, Li Changsheng took a deep breath and calmed down. This 1,000-year-old ginseng could have been used to refine a divine pill to help him break through the realm. Now that it had disappeared, it really made him angry. After living for so many lifetimes, there were very few things that could shake his state of mind. But this time he was really angry. Only by quickly improving his realm could he transcend in this life. Otherwise, it was very likely that this would be his last few decades. Not long after Peng Tiexin left, he came back and showed Li Changsheng a video he took with his phone. "This is the surveillance footage I got from the property management. This is the person who stole your ginseng." Li Changsheng looked at the screen and saw that it was a young man in a suit. The other party was agile. He directly opened the villa's security door and entered the villa. "I was setting up a spirit gathering array here, but I forgot to set up a defensive array. Someone actually managed to break in while I was away." Li Changsheng could not help but shake his head. He had actually neglected such a basic precautionary knowledge. "Tell Su Xiaolin to immediately investigate this person for me. He actually dares to touch the earth above my head. I want to see who he is." The person who stole the ginseng obviously came prepared. Su Xiaolin had placed a lot of antiques in Li Changsheng's house. Nothing was missing except for the ginseng, which was enough to explain the problem. "No need to investigate. I know this person. He is the eldest son of a Zhang family in the north. His name is Zhang Zilong. He is very capable at a young age. He is very famous in the northern circle. Zhang Zilong, find out where he is now." "Okay." Peng Tiexin nodded and then left the villa. Even if Peng Tiexin had Su Xiaolin's intelligence network behind him, it was not easy to find a person immediately. Since he knew who stole the ginseng, Li Changsheng was not in a hurry. He waited patiently. The next afternoon, Peng Tiexin hurried back. He looked a little haggard. Obviously, he did not sleep the whole night. "Thank you for your hard work," Li Changsheng said. Peng Tiexin immediately showed a look of fear. "It's okay. It's my honor to be able to serve you. By the way, I have already found out Zhang Zilong's whereabouts. He is in Qingzhou, but he is a playboy. I don't know where he spent the night last night. I heard that he is celebrating his new girlfriend's birthday today. He booked the entire Emperor Hall in the Dynasty Hotel. I thought that he was no longer in Qingzhou. I didn't expect that he would dare to swagger around Qingzhou after stealing my ginseng. Dynasty Hotel, let's go there now," Li Changsheng said. The two of them left the villa and rushed straight to the hotel. At this moment, in the Emperor Hall of the Dynasty Hotel, the lights were intertwined and it was a lively scene. The Dynasty Hotel might not be the biggest hotel in Qingzhou, but it was definitely one of the most expensive hotels. At this moment, the Emperor Hall was filled with celebrities from the upper-class circle of Qingzhou. A man in a suit could be seen. Behind him was a group of waiters pushing a small cart filled with 9,999 roses. On the stage, a gorgeously dressed woman was covering her mouth with a look of surprise. Zilong, I love you so much. When Zhang Zilong walked onto the stage, the woman threw herself into his arms. There was a warm applause around them. When the applause subsided, Zhang Zilong kissed his girlfriend gently on the lips. He picked up a goblet from the high platform next to him and said loudly, "Thank you all for coming to my girlfriend's birthday party. Let me toast to everyone." Immediately, everyone raised their glasses and drank together. The atmosphere was extremely lively. At this moment, a few young men and women walked in. There were 5 or 6 of them, and each of them had an extraordinary aura. Seeing these people, Zhang Zilong hurriedly smiled and greeted them. "Junior brothers and sisters, you're late." Zhang Zilong's attitude towards them was obviously different from the other guests. The other guests were his friends in the secular world, while these few were his senior brothers and sisters in the world of cultivation. People only knew that Zhang Zilong was the young master of the Zhang family, but they didn't know that he had another identity. He was the direct disciple of the northern sect's master, Guinghua. Guinghua was the first owner of the 5,000-year-old ginseng king. After the ginseng was bought by Li Changsheng, her heart was bleeding. In order to share his master's burden, Zhang Zilong took the initiative to steal the ginseng from Li Changsheng's villa. "Senior brother, we're not like you, who found the ginseng and made a great contribution in front of our master." "That's right, eldest senior brother. We've always thought that those forces in the secular world were useless, but this time when we found the ginseng, we realized how powerful you are in the secular world. We didn't even know where the ginseng was, but you found it from Master first. Master will definitely reward you handsomely." There was envy on their faces. Zhang Zilong chuckled and said, "It's no big deal. It's just a piece of cake." "Senior brother, why don't you tell us how you found the ginseng?" the only woman among them asked curiously. She looked at Zhang Zilong with admiration in her eyes. "In fact, it's very simple. I sent someone to find out the information of the person who bought the ginseng at the auction that day. Then, I used my secular connections to find out where he lived. I want to get the ginseng myself." He changed the word steal to get. He said it matter-of-factly, and his brothers didn't think it was a big deal. Snatching and cheating were things that cultivators could do in order to improve their strength. They were not necessarily nobler than bandits. They had long been used to this kind of thing. Since the other party could buy the ginseng, it means that he is not an ordinary person. "Senior brother, will he come to you after you took the ginseng back?" It's fine if the other party is an ordinary person, but if he is also a cultivator, won't it be troublesome? They all thought that Zhang Zilong bought it with money, and there was some admiration in their hearts. When they heard that the other party stole it, they immediately began to worry. "It's okay. If he dares to come to us, give him some money and send him away. If he is not satisfied, let him have a taste of the power of the 5 Thunderhand I just learned." After saying that, he couldn't help but laugh proudly. The others also nodded. Zhang Zilong could be the first disciple of Guinghua, so there was no doubt about his strength. Not to mention that they had the support of Guinghua, the master of the northern sect. Chapter 241. Just as Zhang Zilong and his junior brothers and sisters were laughing, an old man in a suit next to them came forward. He crawled to Zhang Zilong's ear and whispered, "Young master, I got the news that someone is secretly investigating you. It should be related to that ginseng." "Oh." Zhang Zilong looked a bit interested and said, "Tell me, which force does it belong to?" "The other party is very likely to be Su Xiaolan's men." "What? The Northern Heavenly King, Su Xiaolan?" Zhang Zilong's face changed, but he soon sneered. "So what? No matter how powerful Su Xiaolan is, he's just a businessman after all. Do you think he can go against us cultivators?" After saying that, he waved his hand to the old man. "Don't worry about it. Let them investigate." "Yes." The old man nodded and retreated. Zhang Zilong's junior brothers around naturally heard the old man's words. Although the old man spoke in a low voice, they were all cultivators and their hearing was many times better than ordinary people. I heard that Su Xiaolin is known as the #1 man in the north. But he can only stare at senior brother Zhang this time. He's just a mortal, Zhang Zilong lightly said. Don't worry about it, everyone. Let's have a good drink later. After saying that, Zhang Zilong rushed to the stage, where his enchanting girlfriend was still waiting for him. When he walked on the stage again, the audience immediately cheered. Kiss her. Kiss her. Ha ha ha. Zhang Zilong laughed proudly. There were 3 great joys in life: meeting an old friend in a foreign land, passing the imperial examination, and the wedding night. He found the ginseng for his master. In the future, he would be highly regarded by his master and be able to teach him more advanced magic. This was equivalent to passing the imperial examination. After today's birthday banquet, the girlfriend he had been pursuing for 3 months would be a piece of cake. He could be said to be very proud of having 2 of the 3 great joys in life. Since everyone wants it, then let's kiss. Zhang Zilong hugged his girlfriend's waist and was about to kiss her, but at this time, an untimely voice sounded. Are you Zhang Zilong? His voice wasn't loud, but it accurately reached everyone's ears. Zhang Zilong, who was about to kiss his girlfriend, couldn't help but stiffen. He turned his head and saw a young man looking at him coldly. Beside the young man was a man as thin as a monkey. Zhang Zilong could not help but show some dissatisfaction in his eyes. Who are you? Indeed, the guests invited to his birthday party were all celebrities in the circle. He didn't know Li Changsheng, and people called him Child Zhang. Those who were close to him called him Zilong. Li Changsheng actually called him by his name, which revealed a bit of hostility. Everyone in the room looked at Li Changsheng in confusion, thinking that such a person suddenly appeared at Zhang Zilong's birthday party. Could it be that he was the ex-girlfriend of Zhang Zilong's girlfriend? Was he putting on a melodramatic play of Do You Love Me or him? Zhang Zilong had the same suspicion in his heart. He looked at his girlfriend next to him in confusion. The woman hurriedly waved her hand. I don't know him. Zilong, you have to believe me. I'm here for the ginseng. Li Changsheng didn't bother to talk nonsense and directly stated his purpose. Ginseng? What ginseng? The guests in the room were confused and slightly disappointed at the same time. They originally thought that they could see a melodramatic play that only appeared in idol dramas, but they didn't expect that it was not like that. Zhang Zilong and his fellow apprentices understood in an instant. They were just talking about it, but they didn't expect that the main character would come to them so soon. What ginseng? I don't understand what you're talking about. Today is my birthday party for my girlfriend. You'd better leave the party immediately, or don't blame me for being rude to you. Although Zhang Zilong was a little guilty, when he thought of his strength in his master, Gu Yinghua, he suddenly became confident. You stole my things, but you still speak so eloquently. Zhang, you'd better return the ginseng to me immediately, and I can punish you less. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences. What ginseng? I don't understand what you're talking about. Security, drive him out. Suddenly, 5 or 6 security guards jumped up from all directions and were about to drive Li Changsheng away. However, before they could get close, Li Changsheng casually slapped each of them to the ground. How dare you hit me? Before Zhang Zilong could speak, his fellow apprentices surrounded Li Changsheng. Boy, if you know what's good for you, leave quickly or you'll suffer. It was a man in a white shirt. He was Gu Yinghua's second disciple and the strongest one in the room except for Zhang Zilong. He suddenly stepped out in front of Li Changsheng. Suddenly, the solid floor was cracked by his foot and a hole of more than 10 centimeters appeared on the ground. Just now, when Li Changsheng knocked down several security guards, he also saw that Li Changsheng definitely knew Kung Fu. Now he used this trick to deter Li Changsheng. However, Li Changsheng didn't even look at him. He just stared at Zhang Zilong. I'll count to 3. Tell me your decision. After 3 counts, your life will be in my hands, not yours. Li Changsheng's voice was very flat. His seemingly calm eyes fell in Zhang Zilong's eyes, but suddenly his heart trembled and he felt suffocated. I'm talking to you. Didn't you hear me? Gu Yinghua's second disciple's face was a bit cold. Li Changsheng's disregard made him very angry. Get out of my way. Li Changxing's eyes showed a bit of impatience. He stepped forward gently. Boom! An invisible momentum spread out from under his feet. Gu Yinghua's second disciple suddenly flew out in an instant. He vomited blood and fell more than 10 meters away. Suddenly, Zhang Zilong and his fellow apprentices showed a vigilant look. The surrounding guests even widened their eyes. They didn't see how Li Changxing made a move, but Gu Yinghua's second disciple flew out. This was simply unreasonable. Zhang Zilong and his fellow apprentices' eyes were full of vigilance. Only they knew that Li Changxing's move was a spell. I'm going to kill you. Gu Yinghua's second disciple got up from the ground angrily and then rushed toward Li Changxing. However, just as he approached, Li Changxing reached out and instantly grabbed his neck. He was lifted up like a chicken. Don't challenge my patience. If you don't want to die, stay aside obediently. Li Changxing waved his hand, and his opponent was immediately thrown out again. This time, after the opponent fell to the ground, he didn't dare to rush up again because he just saw the killing intent in Li Changxing's eyes. At that moment, he felt like he was going to die. Zhang Zilong next to him also saw that Li Changxing was not to be trifled with. He took a deep breath. Just as he was about to say something, Li Changxing had already started counting. 3, 2. Chapter 242. Friend, this is not a place where you can behave atrociously. Zhang Zilong stared coldly at Li Changxing. Although Li Changxing had just shown his strength, there was still no fear on Zhang Zilong's face. I'm the young master of the Zhang family, and my master is Gu Yinghua, a master of the Northern Sect. If you turn around and leave now, I'll pretend that nothing happened. Otherwise, you won't be able to bear the consequences. The young master of the Zhang family, a master of the Northern Sect, haha. Li Changxing laughed disdainfully. He took a step forward and grabbed at Zhang Zilong. How dare you? How dare you? You're courting death. A few of Zhang Zilong's brothers and sisters roared furiously as they swung their palms towards Li Changxing. They were all cultivators who were usually high and mighty. Now that they attacked together, they were very powerful. Pearls of rice. Li Changxing waved his hand, and suddenly invisible energy surged out. Those who attacked were directly sent flying. Terrifying. Zhang Zilong's heart trembled. Li Changxing had sent several of his junior brothers flying with one move. This kind of strength made him shocked. However, shock was shock, but he did not show any signs of fear. He was very favored by Gu Yinghua, and he was the eldest brother. Last time, Gu Yinghua gave him a treasure, which was enough to deal with any unexpected situation. Boy, I gave you a chance to leave, but you didn't listen. You can't blame me for what happens next. Zhang Zilong waved his hand, and an 8 trigrams mirror appeared in his hand. Then, under his command, the 8 trigrams mirror directly hung above his head. A green light with mysterious power shrouded Li Changxing. Magic tools were different from ordinary weapons. They already had the power of magic. This 8 trigrams mirror was an offensive magic tool. Once it fell, it could directly attack a person's soul. 9 luminaries, 8 trigrams mirror, kill. Zhang Zilong shouted. Suddenly, the 8 trigrams mirror kept rotating, and a light with mysterious power blasted down. Such a powerful magic tool was given to Gu Yinghua by Zhang Zilong after he contributed hundreds of billions of yuan to buy medicinal herbs for her. Gu Yinghua was happy and gave it to him. The Navagraha 8 trigrams mirror was one of Gu Yinghua's proudest treasures. It didn't have high requirements for the caster. It could absorb the spiritual energy between heaven and earth and activate it at a critical moment to kill the enemy. Zhang Zilong was very confident. With such a magic treasure, he could easily kill cultivators below the 7th level of qi refining. Even those in the 8th or 9th level of qi refining were no match for him. However, what happened next made him widen his eyes. Li Changxing gently waved his hand in the face of the descending light. Suddenly, the light moved according to his gesture and was easily guided to the surroundings, blasting a hole in the ground. How can he be so strong? Zhang Zilong's pupils shrank slightly. Such a magic tool could fight against a cultivator at the 8th level of qi refinement, unless he was a cultivator in the 9th or 10th layer of qi refining. But he was so young. How could that be? Although he was surprised, Zhang Zilong did not hesitate. He bit his finger, drew a talisman in the sky, and put it into the Navagraha 8 trigrams mirror. Suddenly, the mirror grew 3 times bigger, like a small sun. A brilliance of energy condensed and whistled in the sky, rushing towards Li Changsheng. In an instant, a gust of wind blew in the whole hall. The rich people around had never seen such an immortal magic. They were all stunned and hurriedly dodged to the side. I heard that young Master Zhang had a master cultivator as his master. I didn't believe it. I didn't expect him to really know magic. It's too terrifying. This young man who came to seek revenge is also very powerful. I wonder who is stronger. I think young Master Zhang can win. Look at that mirror. It's so powerful. Many people came to their senses and talked about it. At this time, several of Zhang Zilong's brothers looked envious. The Navagraha 8 trigrams mirror was Gu Yinghua's famous magic treasure. Later, Gu Yinghua got a better magic treasure and replaced it. With this magic treasure, she could greatly increase her attack power. Eldest senior brother used his blood essence to draw a talisman to activate the strongest power of the 8 trigrams mirror. He can definitely kill him. This guy is too reckless. He dares to come here and ask for ginseng just because he knows some magic. He's obviously here to die. Li Changsheng only smiled coldly in the face of the descending light pillar. The power of this magic treasure was indeed not bad. It allowed Zhang Zilong, who was only at the 7th level of qi refinement, to fight with a cultivator at the 8th level of qi refinement. He could even compete with a cultivator at the 9th level of qi refinement if he used all his energy. However, he encountered Li Changsheng, a freak who had lived countless lives. His physical strength was so strong that even if he stood there and let the mirror shine on him hundreds of times, he would not lose a hair. You're just like an ant. Li Changsheng stretched out his finger and gently pointed at the front. Whoosh! Suddenly, like a speedboat breaking through the waves, a stream of energy rushed directly into the light pillar. The beam of light was split open from the middle and instantly disappeared into the air. Terrifying. Zhang Zilong's face changed drastically. After getting the 8 trigrams mirror from his master, Gu Yinghua, he could exert the strength of a cultivator at the 9th level of qi refinement. Even an expert at the 10th level of qi refinement could not easily break his attack, unless the opponent was a martial arts grandmaster. Zhang Zilong was shocked. He knew that he had kicked an iron plate this time. He waved his hand and shouted. The 9 luminaries' 8 trigrams mirror suddenly cracked from the middle. At the same time, a terrifying force rotated and roared and blasted towards Li Changsheng. He detonated the 8 trigrams mirror directly to deal with Li Changsheng. What a pity. It's a magic treasure. Zhang Zilong's junior brothers and sisters looked distressed. This was a magic treasure. It was destroyed just like that. Even if the opponent was a grandmaster, he would be injured by the explosion of a magic treasure. Everyone, including Zhang Zilong, stared at Li Changsheng's position. The powerful energy ball completely wrapped Li Changsheng. The terrifying energy shattered the surrounding tables, chairs, and all kinds of furnishings into ashes. A man from the upper circle was too shocked to dodge. Half of his body was swept by the energy and turned into a bloody mist. The people in the hall who witnessed this scene screamed as if they had seen a ghost. Many people were so scared that they squatted on the ground and trembled. He's going to die this time, Zhang Zilong thought to himself. However, the next moment, the huge energy produced by the explosion of the 8 trigrams mirror disappeared in an instant. A figure appeared in front of everyone. It was Li Changsheng. Under this terrifying energy, his body was completely unscathed. Not even a single strand of hair fell from his body. At this moment, Zhang Zilong was completely terrified. Chapter 243. Zhang Zilong now looked at Li Changsheng with fear as if he were looking at a devil. Although Li Changsheng easily broke his magic, he thought that as long as he detonated the 8 trigrams mirror, it would be enough to seriously injure Li Changsheng. However, he found that he was very wrong. Even the terrifying energy of detonating the 8 trigrams mirror could not hurt Li Changsheng at all. Is he really a martial artist of the supreme power realm? Zhang Zilong felt hopeless. Grandmasters were like dragons. They were all existences that could dominate a region, just like his master, Guinghua. It was because she had the strength of the Grandmaster realm that she was respected as a master of the Northern Sect. She was so famous that even billionaires had to be respectful when they saw her. You dare to make a move in front of me with your mediocre skills? Li Changsheng sneered and suddenly slapped his palm forward. Suddenly, an invisible force surged out. Zhang Zilong's body was hit by the energy, and he flew backward directly, spitting blood in his mouth. Then Li Changsheng stepped forward again and walked to Zhang Zilong. He looked down at him and said coldly, "Where's the ginseng? Give it to me, and I'll spare your life. I've already given the ginseng to my master. My master is Guinghua, a master of the Northern Sect. Even if you're a master of the supreme power realm, you are no match for my master. So you'd better think it over." Zhang Zilong still wanted to threaten Li Changsheng at this time. In his opinion, Zhang Zilong should be afraid of his master, Guinghua, because even if Zhang Zilong was also a martial artist of the supreme power realm, no one was willing to make a deadly enemy of a master of the supreme power realm. Therefore, although Zhang Zilong was afraid, he still had a little confidence in his heart. However, he misjudged Li Changsheng's temperament. Even if his master was a great cultivator of the innate realm, he could not change Li Changsheng's decision, let alone a master of the supreme power realm. Li Changsheng smiled slightly. "Since you can't hand over the ginseng, I can't let you live." As he spoke, he slapped down with his palm, and an invisible force hit Zhang Zilong's forehead. The first young master of the Zhang clan, Guinghua's first disciple, had his forehead smashed with a crisp cracking sound. Then, blood flowed out of his 7 orifices, and he lost all signs of life. He didn't hesitate to kill with a wave of his hand. At this moment, the entire hall fell into silence. Zhang Zilong's junior brothers and sisters were trembling. The other party did not care about Zhang Zilong's identity at all. In other words, she clearly didn't put Guinghua in her eyes. Li Changsheng's gaze swept across Guinghua's other disciples. No one dared to look him in the eye, and all of them lowered their heads so low that their necks almost touched their necks. "It wasn't you who stole the ginseng, so I'll spare your lives. Go back and tell Guinghua to obediently send the ginseng back to me within 3 days, and then come to my door to apologize. Otherwise, you'll have to bear the consequences." With that, Li Changsheng turned around and walked out of the banquet hall. Peng Tiexin followed closely behind. After Li Changsheng completely left, Zhang Zilong's junior brothers and sisters wiped the cold sweat off their heads one by one. Li Changsheng's power was too terrifying. He killed the first young master of the Zhang clan without any scruples. The hall was in chaos. At this time, in a villa somewhere in Yanjing, Guinghua was lying on the sofa with 2 walnuts in his hands and his eyes slightly closed. Next to him were his several disciples. One of them was a handsome young man who was 1.8 meters tall and had an extraordinary temperament. He was Guinghua's new disciple. He was the young master of a certain clan in Yanjing, who was even richer than Zhang Zilong's family. Cultivators like Guinghua also needed all kinds of spiritual herbs to refine pills to improve their strength. So they were completely inseparable from worldly wealth. In order to obtain wealth, Guinghua generally had 2 methods. One was to run a company in the secular world to help him make money, and the other was to take in disciples of rich families as disciples and earn money through their filial piety. Aside from Zhang Zilong and the young man in front of him, Guinghua also had several disciples who were rich in the secular world. I heard that Yuan Lebang was also in Yanjing recently and was arrested for committing a crime. Guinghua casually asked without raising his head. "Master, the news is true. Yuan Lebang hooked up with Feng Yuanzheng, the richest man in Beijing, to frame the Junka group. As a result, he went for wool and came home shorn. He even got himself into trouble. I heard that the boss behind the Junka group is also a cultivator, and his magical power is even stronger than Yuan Lebang's. This time, Yuan Lebang willingly went to prison. It seems that he's met a really powerful person. Guinghua nodded. Although Yuan Lebang's strength was not as strong as him, he was also a famous figure in the northern cultivation world. He had fallen into someone else's hands this time. Although it would not affect his interests, he still had to pay attention to it. Cultivators were 1 in a million to begin with. Every newly emerged cultivator would attract attention. Investigate the identity of the boss behind the Junka group for me. There is such a figure in the northern cultivation world. I'll pay him a visit someday. Yes, the young man hurriedly responded. At this moment, Guinghua's phone suddenly rang. When he picked up the phone and listened to it, his face turned gloomy. The temperature in the room dropped several degrees in an instant. What's wrong, master? The young disciple, Lang, had never seen Guinghua so angry since he became his disciple. It was because he saw how powerful Guinghua was that he was willing to pay a high price to become Guinghua's disciple. However, the killing intent on Guinghua's body at this moment made him feel terrified. Your eldest senior brother was killed by someone. How audacious! He even dared to kill my Guinghua's people. Moreover, he came for the Ginseng King. Originally, the King of Ginseng was bought by him. If he came to find me, we could have talked it over and I could have given him some compensation. But he dared to kill my disciple and threatened me to come and apologize. So, I have to teach him a lesson. I, Guinghua, haven't fought for many years. It seems that many people in the north have forgotten my means. After Guinghua finished speaking, he ordered the man, arrange it for me immediately. I'm going to Qingzhou. Master, that person knew that eldest senior brother was your disciple, but he still dared to kill him. Maybe he has something to rely on. Do you need to find some fellow cultivators to help you? Lang said with some hesitation. Another disciple of Guinghua, next to him, snorted disdainfully. Junior brother, you just became Master's disciple. You don't know Master's magic power yet. Master is an expert of the supreme power realm. Masters are like dragons who can dominate the world. If Master wants to kill someone, he doesn't need any help. Hearing his disciple's words, Guinghua's face showed some pride. Sixth brother is right. I, Guinghua, am a master of the North China sect. That guy dared to kill my disciple, so I'll make him pay with his blood. Chapter 244. At this moment, Lang suddenly received a phone call, and then his face slightly changed. Master, I found some information about Li Changsheng through my connections. He's the boss behind the Junka group who sent Yuan Lebang to prison a few days ago. What? Guinghua frowned slightly. Although Yuan Lebang's strength was not as good as his, he was still a famous figure in the northern cultivation world. Being able to deal with Yuan Lebang meant that the other party's strength was not low. Soon, he said coldly, Humph. Even if Yuan Lebang can't afford to offend him, so what? It doesn't mean that I can't deal with him. He killed my disciple. If I don't do anything, won't I become a laughingstock? Yes, Master has always favored senior brother the most. He died in the hands of others. You must avenge senior brother. Guinghua's several disciples nodded. If Li Changsheng came to ask for the ginseng, perhaps they would give him some money for the sake of being in the wrong and send him away. But Li Changsheng directly came to kill them, which involved a matter of face. Guinghua would never compromise. Master, I got the news that the other party's background is not ordinary. Lang said with a worried look at this time. What's not ordinary about it? Can he threaten you, Master? The sixth disciple looked disdainful. Guinghua was known as a cultivation master of the northern sect. He was one of the iconic figures in the northern cultivation world. Over the years, he had made friends with rich people and developed his force, so he had a strong influence in the north. Even the real big shots in the north dared not to fight with Guinghua easily. How could they take Li Changsheng seriously? This Li Changsheng is really unusual. Lang repeated again, wanting to attract the attention of his master and several senior brothers. Could it be that he's the successor of some Taoist sect? Or is he the successor of a certain cultivation clan? The sixth disciple wondered. The other disciples present also revealed curious expressions. Those who could threaten Guinghua were either top Taoist sects or martial arts families, or those who were strong enough to crush those in the Grandmaster realm. This was because Guinghua herself was a cultivator of the Grandmaster realm. Although she was only at the early stage, Li Changsheng was so young that he might not even have reached the 10th level of the Qi refining realm, let alone the Grandmaster realm. Their guess was right. Li Changsheng was indeed not in the supreme power realm, but he was the only one in the world who could kill people beyond several realms. I was referring to his background, not this. Lang shook his head and said solemnly, "According to the information I received, he has a close relationship with that big shot in the north, Su Xiaolin. Sickly Tiger Qiyu is also his backer." Su Xiaolin, Qiyu. Guinghua's disciples revealed looks of disdain. Although they were very famous, they were just two merchants in the secular world. Cultivators, even those who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation, had a sense of superiority. They believed that they were immortals and looked down on ordinary wealthy merchants. No matter how rich or powerful they were, they would find it very difficult to enter their eyes. But Guinghua's expression slightly changed when she heard these two names. "Master, is there something unusual about these two?" The disciples had been paying attention to Guinghua's expression, and the sixth disciple could not help but ask. "Of course I've heard of them." Guinghua's eyes revealed some fear. Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu might be proper merchants now, but the era they rose to prominence was filled with bloodshed. There are many rumors that these two might be cultivators. Then what do we do? Hesitation appeared on the faces of the disciples. If they were just ordinary merchants, they naturally would not be afraid. But if the other party was also a cultivator, they would have to consider more. The word cultivator was very profound. Was the other party someone who had just stepped into the threshold of Qi refining, a grandmaster like Guinghua, or an even higher realm? After all, whether it was Su Xiaolin or Qi Yu, they had been able to stand at the peak of the north for so many years. Guinghua pondered for a moment, and finally, her eyes became resolute. "You don't need to panic. No matter how powerful Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu's background are, their relationship with this young man is still uncertain. I don't think they will oppose me, Guinghua, for the sake of a young man. Moreover, your master's many years of operation were not for nothing. I'll immediately call my secular forces and have them put pressure on Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu to not interfere in Li Changsheng's matter. Doesn't that brat want to take back the ginseng? Then I'll openly challenge him to a duel to the death. When the time comes, I'll invite my colleagues in the northern cultivation world to witness it. Even if I kill Li Changsheng, Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu won't be able to say anything." Master is wise. The disciples all looked excited. The power of the secular world and the strength of the cultivation world were used together. This was something that had never happened before after they became Guinghua's disciples. Even Lang, who was a little worried at first, was completely relieved. He even began to feel sad for Li Changsheng. "It's just a ginseng. If you came to my door and talked nicely, I could give you some money. At the same time, you could make my master owe you a favor. But now that you've killed someone and angered my master, even Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu can't save you." At this moment, Li Changsheng was sitting in the villa and talking to Su Xiaolin on the phone. He asked Su Xiaolin to confirm Guinghua's location. Since he said that he would give the other party 3 days to come to his door and apologize, he would naturally do what he said. If Guinghua gave him the ginseng within 3 days, Li Changsheng would punish him, but not take his life. However, if he didn't come to his door and apologize, Li Changsheng would go to Yanjin and take his head. I've just received a lot of calls. They were all sent by Guinghua to put pressure on me, asking me not to intervene in the matter between you and him. I didn't respond. I noted down all these forces. As long as you say the word, I'll immediately uproot them. I, Su Xiaolin, haven't done anything for many years. They've already forgotten my means. On the phone, Su Xiaolin's voice was full of dominance. He was indeed the famous Tiger Su. He was like a tiger coming out of the forest and swallowing the mountains and rivers. With Li Changxing's return, he was like a sword that had been sealed for a long time and had long wanted to be unsheathed and drink blood. Don't worry, Gu Yinghua is just like an ant. Li Changxing comforted Su Xiaolin. As soon as he hung up the phone, the doorbell outside the villa rang. A young man in a suit stood outside the door. When Peng Tiexin opened the door, the man looked inside the villa and asked, "Which one of you is Li Changxing, Mr. Li?" "I was asked by someone to deliver a letter." "I am." Li Changxing asked Peng Tiexin to bring the letter. On the cover of the letter, there were two gilded words written with a brush, "Letter of Challenge." Chapter 245. After handing the letter of challenge to Li Changxing, the man didn't leave immediately. Instead, he stood at the door and said, "I'm Gu Yinghua's sixth disciple. I'm here to deliver the letter of challenge under my master's orders. At the same time, I have some words to convey." "Speak," Li Changxing said without raising his head. The other party had sent a letter of challenge. Obviously, he didn't intend to do as he said and didn't want to apologize. In Li Changxing's eyes, he was already a dead man. "My master said that for the sake of Su Xiaolin and Qiyu, as long as you're willing to apologize and pay a certain price, my master will spare your life. Otherwise, once he makes a move, he'll definitely take your life." "Is that so?" Li Changxing curled his lips. "Tell Gu Yinghua that I've accepted the letter of challenge. Tell him to prepare his head." After saying that, he gave Peng Tiexin a meaningful glance. Peng Tiexin directly closed the door of the villa. The disciple still had some words to say, but he was directly rejected. "What an arrogant young man. It's a pity that offending my master is your biggest mistake." Gu Yinghua's sixth disciple turned around angrily and walked out of the villa. Today he had been given the cold shoulder, allowing him to have a certain understanding of Li Changxing's personality. This was a young and conceited man. At the same time, he also felt that many of Li Changxing's actions were understandable. Young and impetuous, looking down on everything, this kind of person would not live long. After Gu Yinghua issued the letter of challenge, he also asked his disciples to spread the news and invite fellow cultivators in the northern cultivation world to watch the battle. His intention was to shut Su Xiaolin and Qiyu's mouths and openly kill Li Changxing, so that they wouldn't have a reason to seek revenge. Although Gu Yinghua said that he wasn't afraid of Su Xiaolin and Qiyu, he actually didn't dare to really fight them. In 2 days, the entire northern cultivation world was in an uproar. Gu Yinghua had set the date for the battle 3 days later. At the same time, many rich people in the circle learned of the news. Gu Yinghua's influence wasn't only in the cultivation world, but also in the circle of rich people. "I heard that the Gu clan's Gu Yinghua is going to have a duel with someone. The opponent is a young man in his 20s. Grandmaster Gu is so resourceful and has the power of gods and ghosts. Yet, he issued a challenge to a young man. Who is that young man?" "I heard his name is Li Changxing. People call him Mr. Li. Mr. Li from Qingzhou." Many people had heard of Li Changxing's name, and they were all surprised. "I heard that Li Changxing is also a ruthless person. Even Yang Liuji from Chuzhou City was defeated by him. Not only Yang Liuji, but also the Cheng family of Chuzhou City. Looks like this Li Changxing isn't that easy to deal with." The battle had not yet begun, but the news had already spread. Countless people gathered at Song Mountain, which was 60 miles away from Qingzhou. Finally, the third day of the battle arrived. At the peak of Song Mountain, clouds were rising and rosy. This was the tallest mountain in Qingzhou and was a famous tourist attraction. However, today it was announced that it would not be accepting tourists. Meanwhile, Li Changxing was having breakfast in a small town at the foot of Song Mountain. Due to the battle at Song Mountain, the town was bustling with activity. Even the remote breakfast stall was crowded with tourists. After finally finding a table, Li Changxing sat down and ordered a bowl of soup dumplings and a bowl of congee. He planned to eat his fill before he went to deal with Gu Yinghua. However, As soon as Li Changsheng sat down, he heard a commotion coming from the restaurant. He looked up and saw a beautiful girl standing at the door. She attracted most of the attention. The girl was wearing a short skirt, and a pair of slender legs were particularly eye-catching. The plain shirt outlined her slender figure just right. In particular, her jade-like fingers were carrying a round black bag. Li Changxing couldn't tell what brand it was. The girl looked around the breakfast shop, but couldn't find a seat. She wrinkled her nose and looked at Li Changsheng. She put her bag on the table and said with a smile, "Can I sit at the same table as you?" The town was bustling with activity today. They went to a few shops, and all of them were full. Seeing that it was almost 8 o'clock, they could only compromise and choose a small breakfast stall to share a table with a stranger. Of course. Li Changxing nodded, and the girl sat down across from him. Her eyes, which were as dark as the stars, met Li Changxing's gaze and smiled. It was undeniable that the girl was very beautiful. She was pure and enchanting. Li Changsheng returned the smile. The girl was natural and unrestrained, so he didn't hesitate to smile. Moreover, people always like beautiful things. Li Changsheng was no exception. Not long after the girl sat down, Li Changsheng's breakfast had been served. Seeing Li Changsheng eating breakfast as if there was no one else around, the woman's face showed some interest. A beautiful woman like her would inevitably have some aura. Normal men would rarely be able to eat in front of her like Li Changsheng, completely ignoring her existence. A tall young man barged in. When he saw the girl sitting there, his eyes lit up. "Fei Fei, I finally found you." The man walked to the girl's side and sat down. When he saw Li Changsheng sitting across from her, he asked curiously, "Who is this?" The man's voice was very loud. All the customers in the breakfast stall could hear him. As a result, many gazes were cast over. They were all curious about the relationship between the man and the girl. The man was very handsome, and the girl was very beautiful. They could be considered a perfect match. "We don't know each other. There are too many people, so we sat at the same table to eat." The girl called Fei Fei smiled and explained. The man suddenly understood and nodded. "Oh, I see." After saying that, he took the initiative to extend his hand to Li Changsheng. "Hello, my name is Chao Bushu." Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng shook the man's hand out of courtesy. Then, he continued to eat. By then, the man had already moved to the girl's side and began to complain. "Fei Fei, why didn't you tell me that you were coming to Tsang Mountain? You made me rush here from Chuzhou City. Although I know you don't like me, I won't change my mind before you get married." The girl didn't say anything after hearing that. She only shook her head slightly. Her breakfast had just been served, so she began to eat gracefully. At this time, Chao Bushu received a phone call. After hanging up, he said, "Fei Fei, I just asked my friend to help me see if there's anything fun in Song Mountain. My friend told me that Song Mountain is closed today. He said that some big shot is coming. I think we should go back. My friend is very powerful in the Qingzhou area. If even he can't do anything, we won't be able to do anything." The girl's face showed a bit of confusion. However, she still said, "If you want to go back, you go back. It's not easy for me to come to Tsang Mountain. Even if I can only look at it from afar, it's fine." Chao Bushu shook his head. "If you don't go back, I will accompany you. Even if I can't go in, I will follow you wherever you go." Li Changsheng quite admired this guy. In order to chase a girl, he could be considered to be shameless to the extreme. There was a bit of shameless and pestering feeling, but he had a good grasp of the situation, so it wasn't annoying. Song Mountain was originally a tourist destination, but it was closed today. It must be Guing Hua's order. After all, cultivators should not be exposed in front of ordinary people. By the time the man's breakfast was served, Li Changsheng had already finished the food in front of him. After leaving the breakfast shop, he went to the town's bus station and bought a ticket. Then, he sat on a bus heading to the vicinity of Tsang Mountain. Although this place was at the foot of Tsang Mountain, it was still dozens of miles away. Not long after Li Changsheng sat down and closed his eyes to rest, he smelled a fragrant wind. A woman sat down next to him. He opened his eyes and saw that it was the beautiful woman who sat at the same table as him in the breakfast shop. The woman clearly recognized him as well and smiled at him warmly. Li Changsheng looked in the direction of the car door and saw the young man quickly walking up. Seeing Li Changsheng next to the woman, Chao Buishu couldn't help but frown. Then he said to Li Changsheng, "Friend, can you change seats?" Without waiting for Li Changsheng to answer, he took out two 100 yuan bills from his bag and threw them on Li Changsheng's leg. "I won't let you change seats for free. This is your reward." Chapter 246. Originally, changing seats wasn't a big deal for Li Changsheng. However, when the other party threw 200 yuan at him, Li Changsheng couldn't help but feel a bit unhappy. He couldn't blame the other party. Li Changsheng was dressed so ordinarily. No matter how one looked at him, he looked like a poor student. Moreover, the other party had been taught that money could buy everything. The bus ticket to the foot of Tsang Mountain was only 80 yuan. 200 yuan for a seat, in his opinion, Li Changsheng couldn't refuse. The girl called Fei Fei looked at everything in front of her with some astonishment. She deliberately sat next to Li Changsheng because she didn't want to sit next to the other man. However, she didn't expect the other party to have such a trick. The rich might be able to ignore the charm of money, but the lethality of money to the poor was unstoppable. Although 200 yuan wasn't a large amount for a poor student, it was definitely not dispensable. However, Li Changsheng's next move made the girl's face a bit surprised. She saw Li Changsheng pick up the 200 yuan and then put it back into the young man's hand. He shook his head and said, "I'm sorry, I'm a bit lazy. Once I sit down, I don't want to get up. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you." Then Li Changsheng looked at the girl next to him and said, "A feast for the eyes. It's not something that can be exchanged for 200 yuan." The girl looked at Li Changsheng in astonishment. Her cheeks were slightly red. Li Changsheng's tone was obviously a bit frivolous. A feast for the eyes? Wasn't he talking about her? However, she couldn't get angry because he was clearly praising her beauty. The man didn't seem to think that Li Changsheng would say such words. His expression changed. He carefully sized up Li Changsheng's body. His eyes were clearly a bit cold. Then he took out a stack of red bills from his bag. It was estimated to be more than 10,000 yuan. He patted his hand and said to Li Changsheng, "As long as you're willing to change seats with me, this money is yours." After that, he quietly waited for Li Changsheng's reply. He didn't believe that a guy wearing clothes from a street stall could resist the temptation of money. What's more, this money was easily obtainable. Face, dignity, persistence, and personality were all things that could be exchanged in the eyes of the other party. The only difference was the amount of bargaining chips. He felt that no one would refuse to pay 10,000 yuan for a seat. However, Li Changsheng placed his hands on the back of his head and closed his eyes to rest. He actually ignored the man. He had already made his attitude clear with his actions. $10,000 was nothing to him. Finally, the man took a deep look at Li Changsheng and shrugged at the woman. "Fei Fei, I'll sit behind you. No matter where you go, I'll accompany you." The woman named Fei Fei didn't say anything. She had long been accustomed to men's pestering and had a strong enough immunity. However, she was a bit curious about Li Changsheng sitting next to her. Thinking back to Li Changsheng's performance at the breakfast stall, she suddenly felt that this man was somewhat different from the rest. Soon, the bus began to depart. The incident just now was just a small interlude, but it made Li Changsheng the frequent target of all the passengers on the bus. 10,000 yuan for a seat. Li Changsheng actually refused. Many people secretly praised Li Changsheng for his backbone and personality. Some people even used the phrase, "not willing to give up for 5 buckets of rice" to describe Li Changsheng. However, there were also some discordant voices, saying that he was pretending to be noble and virtuous in order to show off in front of the woman. Li Changsheng just laughed it off. He didn't care about other people's judgment at all. 10,000 yuan for a seat. What a good deal this is. Why did you refuse? The woman finally asked the question that had been in her heart. "All right, my name is Dong Fei Yan. I came to Tsang Mountain for sightseeing. My name is Li Changsheng." Li Changsheng smiled. "Nice to meet you." Dong Fei Yan stretched out her slender hand and shook Li Changsheng's hand. After a short contact, Li Changsheng felt that the other party's hand was very soft and smooth. Some women, just with a pair of jade hands, people would never get tired of looking at them. Dong Feiyin was obviously such a person. 10,000 yuan for a seat may be a very good choice for others, but if I take that 10,000 yuan, it won't change my life much. But if I refuse that 10,000 yuan, it will make my mood a lot better. So, isn't this decision very normal? What an interesting statement. Dong Feiyin smiled, but at the same time, she was slightly disappointed. She originally thought that Li Changsheng would say that because there was a beautiful woman sitting next to him, it was worth far more than 10,000 yuan. This way, he would be able to invisibly win her favor. However, the other party seemed to be somewhat unromantic. This made Dong Feiyin wonder if her charm had decreased. After all, when they were eating breakfast, this man also seemed to ignore her. This made Dong Feiyin, who had always been confident and calm, feel somewhat indignant. After hesitating for a moment, she took the initiative to talk to Li Changsheng. She wanted to see if the man in front of her was really indifferent to her beauty, or if he was just pretending to be aloof. Are you going to Song Mountain alone? Traveling alone is a very boring thing. Dong Feiyin casually found a topic to talk about. I think it's okay. Li Changsheng smiled. And although you're not alone, you don't seem to be as comfortable as me. Li Changsheng glanced at the man sitting behind Dong Feiyin. When Dong Feiyin thought of this stalker that she couldn't get rid of, her face was somewhat helpless. She lowered her voice and said to Li Changsheng, "He is the son of my business partner. I don't like him, but he kept on pestering me. Because of his identity, I couldn't directly fall out with him. Thank you for refusing to change seats with him. Otherwise, not only would you be in a bad mood, but also my mood would be ruined." Because the other party was afraid that the man behind her would hear her words, she took the initiative to move closer to Li Changsheng. A faint fragrance came into Li Changsheng's nostrils, especially the other party's curvaceous figure. At such a close distance, he could even hear her breath, which had a different kind of charm. Behind them, Chao Buishu was so angry that his eyes almost popped out. He had chased after Dong Feiyin for such a long time, but Dong Feiyin didn't even give him a chance to get close to her. Now, she was whispering to a strange man, especially when he was so close to her. It made him feel like 10,000 alpacas were galloping in his heart. He wished he could immediately pull Li Changsheng out and give him 300 punches to vent the hatred in his heart. There was no doubt that Dong Feiyin's charm was irresistible even to those experienced in love. However, Li Changsheng's thousands of years of life experience had long made him not so easily swayed. So his calm face made Feiyin more and more interested, and she had a little more impulse to explore deeper. Chapter 247. Since you don't like him, just refuse him. Even if he's your business partner, the most important thing is to live a happy life. Seemingly not expecting Li Changsheng to say such words, Dong Feiyin stared blankly for a moment, then shook her head and smiled. You don't understand. You think of everything too simply. If I really did that, perhaps I would be even more unhappy. When she said this, Li Changsheng saw a faint sadness in her eyes. He couldn't help but blurt out, "But you're too tired." Too tired. This sentence made Dong Feiyin's body tremble. Many people envied her identity as a rich young lady, envied her rich birth, envied her princess-like life, but this was the first time someone asked if she was tired. After a long silence, Dong Feiyin seemed to be lost in her memories. It wasn't until Li Changsheng closed his eyes and opened them again that she spoke. The sadness in her eyes had disappeared and was replaced by a kind of calmness. Li Changsheng knew that she had adjusted her mood, which meant that she had a strong control of her emotions. By the way, what are you doing in Song Mountain? Are you traveling? Dong Feiyin asked casually. I'm going there to fight. Fight! Dong Feiyin covered her mouth and smiled. You're also a strange person. The two chatted from time to time along the way. Time passed quickly, and the car arrived at the foot of Song Mountain. When the car stopped and the door opened, people began to walk out. I heard that Song Mountain is closed today. It seems that we can only look from afar and then go back. Dong Fian said while packing her bag. If you want to go up the mountain, I can help you. My friend is very powerful in Song Mountain. I called him, and he said he couldn't help. You? Who do you think you are? Country bumpkin. Before Dong Fian could speak, Chao Buishu said with a look of disgust. His words were a bit aggressive. He had been holding back the whole way and couldn't bear it anymore. There was a bit of provocation. Dong Fian was afraid that Li Chongqing would get angry and have a conflict with Chao Buishu. Chao Buishu was a Taekwondo black belt. He was definitely not a good person. Unexpectedly, Li Chongqing just smiled and didn't say anything. He got up and walked to the car door. In his eyes, the man was no different from a stray dog on the roadside. How could Li Chongqing be angry because of stray dog barking? What a coward. The man snorted coldly, somewhat disappointed. Originally, he wanted to take the opportunity to teach Li Chongqing a lesson. Dong Fian shook her head when she saw Li Chongqing's reaction. Along the way, she and Li Chongqing had a pleasant conversation, but only now did she realize the difference in status between the two of them. No matter how humorous and interesting Li Chongqing was, it could not change the fact that he was poor. In the face of Chao Buishu's provocation, he didn't even dare to say a word. After getting off the bus, the foot of Song Mountain was already surrounded by a lot of people. Song Mountain was originally a tourist attraction with a lot of tourists coming every day. Now that it was suddenly closed to the public, many people who came from afar wanted to find the tourist attraction for an explanation. However, the person in charge of the tourist attraction didn't appear at all. As long as this kind of thing was ignored and left there, the people's anger would naturally subside and leave. If they came out to explain something, it would easily lead to a lot of unnecessary trouble. The road to Song Mountain had been blocked by several strong men in black suits, but some people were still allowed to pass. Li Chongqing could easily sense that these people who were allowed to pass were all martial artists or cultivators. The fight between Li Chongqing and Gu Yinghua was indeed not suitable for ordinary people to see, as it would easily cause public disorder. It seems that Gu Yinghua is quite considerate. At this time, Li Chongqing saw Dong Fian also walk into the intersection, but she was stopped by several strong men. Chao Buishu, who was pursuing her, said a lot of good words to the strong men, but the other party just coldly shook his head. Just as Dong Fian was about to give up, Li Chongqing walked over and said, "Let her go up the mountain. She's my friend." Hearing Li Chongqing's words, the leader of the strong men looked puzzled. "My name is Li Chongqing." Li Chongqing introduced himself. Suddenly, the strong man's body shook and a look of fear appeared on his face. These people were Gu Yinghua's people, but now, after the fight between Gu Yinghua and Li Chongqing, there were very few people who didn't know who Li Chongqing was. No matter whether Li Chongqing could defeat Gu Yinghua or not, he was not someone a small martial artist who was responsible for maintaining public order like him could offend. "Greetings, Mr. Li." The strong man hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed to Li Chongqing. The other strong men behind him also hurriedly bowed to Li Chongqing. At this moment, not only Dong Fian and Chao Buishu, but also many people around them were shocked. These strong men looked fierce. At that time, several famous business tycoons in the north had appeared. Although they let them go, they all had cold expressions. Many people guessed that these people must have extraordinary identities. The master behind them might be an earth-shattering big shot. But now, so many people were bowing respectfully to a young man in his 20s. Especially their expressions, there was a hint of fear. This was too unbelievable. How can this be? Chao Buishu swallowed hard, feeling as if he had been struck by lightning. Could it be that this incomparably poor fellow has an unusual identity? Dong Fian's eyes were even more shocked. Jiang Bok. She recognized the leader of the strong men. He was the founder of a bodyguard company. The bodyguards trained by his company had protected many celebrities and rich people and had become the favorite of many celebrities and rich people. He had a wide range of connections in the circle. Dong Fian had seen reports about him on the news before. No wonder she felt that he was a little familiar. The boss of a company with a net worth of hundreds of billions of yuan had come here to work as a security guard. Most importantly, he was so respectful to Li Changsheng. What's wrong with this world? Just as Dong Fian was pondering, Li Changsheng had already stepped up the mountain. After a long time, when Li Changsheng's figure disappeared, the few people dared to straighten up. Jiang Bok walked directly to Dong Fian and said, "You are Mr. Li's friend. Of course, you can go up the mountain. But because you're an ordinary person, you'd better stop halfway up the mountain." Ordinary person? What do you mean? Dong Fian was a little confused. But at this moment, Jiang Bok had turned to greet another rich middle-aged man. She could not ask anything more. Without thinking, she also stepped up the mountain. Seeing this, Chao Buishu hurriedly followed behind. The security guards thought that Chao Buishu was also Li Changsheng's friend, so they did not stop him and let him go up the mountain smoothly. Chapter 248. Halfway up the mountain, Li Changsheng found a blue stone and sat down. Guinghua didn't come. The battle was scheduled at noon, so he wasn't in a hurry. After Dong Fian went up the mountain, she was looking for Li Changsheng. Sure enough, she saw Li Changsheng sitting there and took the initiative to walk over. She was more and more curious about Li Changsheng's identity. Li Changsheng originally planned to meditate here, but since Dong Fian took the initiative to talk to him, he couldn't just ignore her, so he simply sat there and began to chat with Dong Fian. He had lived for thousands of years, so his knowledge was not comparable to ordinary people. Although he didn't know much about modern technology, his conversation still made Dong Fian feel amazed. Chao Buishu looked over here, and his face became gloomier. He saw the attitude of those strong men towards Li Changsheng, so he knew that Li Changsheng's identity was probably not ordinary. Naturally, he didn't dare to offend him. At this time, a surprised voice sounded. "Young Master Chao, you are here too?" When he turned around, he saw a chubby guy walking over accompanied by a few people. Young Master Luo. After seeing the chubby guy, Chao Rui's face suddenly lit up. At this time, Dong Fian also looked over. Chao Buishu hurriedly introduced to Dong Fian. "This is young Master Luo Rui of Hongfeng Group. He and I were high school classmates." Hearing the name, Chao Fian's face also showed a bit of surprise. Hongfeng Group was a big company in China's top 500. And this is... Luo Rui looked at Dong Fian with a bit of surprise in his eyes. Dong Fian's appearance could be described as stunning no matter where she was. "This is my girlfriend, Dong Fian." Chao Buishu introduced her. Dong Fian couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. "Who is your girlfriend? Don't talk nonsense." "Huh." Luo Rui just thought all of this was a quarrel between a young couple. "Who is that?" Luo Rui just saw Dong Fian talking with Li Changsheng, so he thought they were together, so he looked at Chao Buishu. However, Chao Buishu shook his head and said, "Just a person I met on the bus." He didn't want to talk too much about it. Instead, he said, "It's noisy here. Let's find a quiet place to stay for a while." In fact, this place wasn't very noisy, but because Chao Buishu provoked Li Changsheng before he got off the car, he was afraid that Li Changsheng would take revenge on him. He felt insecure, so he said that. All right. Naturally, Lori had no objections. Although Dong Fian was curious about Li Changsheng, this young master of the Luo family was obviously someone she needed to get to know. Thus, she went over to Li Changsheng and said, "Li Changsheng, I'll go talk to my friend for a while." All right. Li Changsheng couldn't wait for her to leave so that he could cultivate for a while. Although this woman wasn't annoying, Li Changsheng didn't have a good impression of Chao Buishu, who followed her around like a shadow. The three of them came to a large rock and sat down. After learning from the conversation that Chao Buishu wasn't Dong Fian's boyfriend, Lori's eyes suddenly lit up. He began to fawn over Dong Fian, which made Chao Buishu feel like he had invited a wolf into the house. He just let Dong Fian leave Li Changsheng, the tiger, and now he attracted Lori, the wolf. However, although he and Lori were high school classmates, Lori's status was much higher than his. He didn't dare to offend Lori, so he stood there alone with a bitter face. By the way, young Master Luo, We came to Tsang Mountain for a vacation. Why is it closed today? Do you know the reason? Dong Fian's impression of Lori was much better than Xiao Buishu's, so she was willing to smile. This made Xiao Buishu even more depressed. Just call me Xiao Rue or Brother Rue. You don't have to be so distant. Lori smiled slightly. The reason why the mountain is closed today is because two big shots are going to fight on the top of the mountain. I don't know the details, but I heard that there will be a good show, so I came here. I didn't have time to ask about the details. Two people fighting? Dong Fian and Xiao Buishu were a little surprised, especially Dong Fian, who stuck out her tongue. What kind of fight is it? They actually want to close the entire tourist area, and so many people came to watch. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Xiao Buishu also nodded. He couldn't understand. Lori, on the other hand, smiled. What do you mean by big shots? Even a fart can shake the mountain. These two can get people to close the entire tourist area and attract so many people to watch their fight. It means that their background isn't ordinary. While Lori was talking, he suddenly paused and looked at the mountain road. Look, that's the chairman of Cloud Valley Technology in the north. Even my dad has to be polite to him. Lori exclaimed. I didn't expect him to come. Isn't that the general manager of 7 Days Hotel and the founder of Wheat Technology? As noon approached, more and more big shots appeared. However, after these people appeared, they didn't directly go up the mountain. Instead, they stood in the middle of the road as if waiting for something. These people are all big shots in the north who can cause an earthquake with a stomp of their feet. I wonder what they are waiting for. Lori was puzzled. Could it be that they are waiting for the two people who are going to fight? Well, it seems that these two people are really not ordinary. It would be great if I could make so many tycoons wait for me one day. As the young master of Hungfeng Group, Lori's status was already very prominent. However, he had to call any one of these people uncle, and he had to be respectful to them. To be able to make these people wait so respectfully, they were already on another level. In this world, there was a clear hierarchy. Although Lori's family business had entered the top 500 in China, it was very difficult to go further. At that time, Li Changsheng said that he was going up the mountain to fight with someone. Could he be one of those two big shots? Dong Fian thought of Li Changsheng's mysterious identity and muttered in a low voice. Xiao Buishu, who was next to her, heard this and shook his head. How is that possible? These are all big shots. No matter how powerful Li Changsheng's background is, it's impossible for these people to wait so respectfully. As for Lori, he just treated it as a joke. If Xiao Buishu didn't tell him that this ordinary man knew the boss of the bodyguard company, he wouldn't even bother to look at him. But that was it. In his opinion, even if Li Changsheng knew the boss of a bodyguard company, it wasn't a big deal. How could his background be compared with his own? That's hard to say. Dong Fian said, somewhat unconvinced. In fact, she didn't think that the person would be Li Changsheng, but Xiao Buishu's attitude made her instinctively feel disgusted. Fian, don't think too much. If it's really him, then why would these bosses need to wait? Isn't he sitting not far away? Can't they just go directly? Xiao Buishu's words made Dong Fian speechless. At this time, Li Changsheng stood up from the stone and then walked toward the top of the mountain. Chapter 249. Is Li Changsheng really one of those two big shots? Seeing Li Changsheng's actions, Dong Buishu was completely dumbfounded. Lori, who was next to him, also showed a look of surprise. At this time, they saw Li Changsheng walk to the rich people, but he didn't talk to them. Instead, he directly walked past them and went up the mountain. Xiao Buishu and Lori breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that it's not him. Dong Fian was slightly disappointed. When Li Changsheng stood up just now, she was still hoping for a miracle. If she met a big shot with an earth-shattering identity on the bus, she would feel a little excited. However, she also knew that the probability of such a thing happening in reality was too small. Just as Li Changsheng was about to pass by the rich people, one of them with half a bald head suddenly said, "Stop. What's wrong?" Li Changsheng's footsteps paused, and he turned his head back, his face filled with confusion. Master Gu hasn't arrived yet. No one is allowed to go up the mountain. Otherwise, It will be disrespectful to Master Gu. The bald middle-aged man said coldly. So what if I don't respect him? I don't know him. Why should I respect him? Li Changsheng lifted his feet and was about to continue walking up the mountain. The bald middle-aged man's face became ugly. He directly blocked Li Changsheng's path. Which family are you from? You don't know the rules. No one is allowed to go up the mountain before Master Gu arrives. What's more, I'm not the only one who said this. It's a consensus reached by everyone. If you dare to take another step up, I'll let the security guards in charge of maintaining order throw you down the mountain. The bald middle-aged man said sternly. His eyes were full of anger as he looked at Li Changsheng. Others are not allowed to go up, but that doesn't include me. Li Changsheng said coldly. Why? The bald middle-aged man was completely angry. The other rich people around also cast cold eyes. Obviously, they were very dissatisfied with Li Changsheng's actions. Because my name is Li Changsheng. Lori and the other two watched the conflict unfold. When Li Changsheng said his name, Lori couldn't help but laugh. I don't know where this guy's sense of superiority comes from. He even said that his name is Li Changsheng. Does he think that these 3 words are very valuable? Chao Bushu also nodded and said, yeah. When he walked up there, I really thought that this guy was one of the 2 mysterious people. It turns out that he was just pretending. Dong Fian was also somewhat anxious for Li Changsheng. She had heard from Lori that these people were all extraordinary characters. If Li Changsheng had a conflict with them, how could it be good? He was afraid that he would bring disaster upon himself. At the same time, many people noticed the dispute and sneered. As far as they were concerned, this young man was clearly acting recklessly. The identity of this bald, middle-aged man was not ordinary. It could be said that he was one of the top existences among these rich people. Li Changsheng could walk halfway up the mountain, indicating that he had some background. But looking at his age, he was at most a junior. Offending this bald, middle-aged man would bring disaster to his family. Young people nowadays are spoiled. They don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Someone shook his head. Dong Fian couldn't help but step forward. She wanted to help Li Changsheng. Although she and Li Changsheng met by chance, she actually had a good impression of Li Changsheng, who knew that after taking 2 steps, after hearing the name Li Changsheng, the bald middle-aged man's face was first stunned and then changed color. You are Mr. Li? Mr. Li? The rich people behind him also changed their expressions. They hurriedly cupped their hands and said, Greetings, Mr. Li. Li Changsheng's fame came partly from the fact that he dealt with the father and son of the Qin family in Qingzhou and made Yang Liuji cut off one of his fingers. Another part came from the fact that he had Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu as his backers. Although the rich people present were famous in China, they were obviously not qualified to be compared with Su Xiaolin and Qi Yu. As the rich people bowed together, the people who were waiting to watch the show were completely dumbfounded. Especially Chao Bushu and Lorui. Their faces were full of disbelief, as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. Dong Fian, on the other hand, widened her beautiful eyes in shock. She muttered to herself, I was right. At this time, Li Changsheng glanced at the rich people in front of him, especially the bald man. He asked faintly, Now you still want to ask me why? Cold sweat suddenly flowed down the bald man's forehead. I dare not. I dare not. I was wrong. Please forgive me, Mr. Li. You're wrong. Do you think you can offset the offense you've committed against me with just 1 word? Li Changsheng's voice suddenly rose several times. The bald middle-aged man was so scared that his legs went soft and he almost fell to the ground. He had heard of Li Changsheng's fame. He killed the father and son of the Qin family and cut off one of Yang Liuji's fingers. There were even rumors that the entire Cheng family was destroyed by him. He was a killing god. Mr. Li, Director Zhu doesn't know your identity. Please be merciful and spare his life. A rich man who had a good relationship with a bald middle-aged man begged for mercy. Yes, Mr. Li. Just treat him like a fart and let him go. The others also begged for mercy. Just as everyone's gazes were focused on Li Changsheng, wanting to see how he would deal with the pleading of so many people, they saw Li Changsheng beckoning to Dong Fian, who was standing there and asking, Miss Dong, do you think I should forgive him? The surroundings suddenly fell into silence. The bald, middle-aged man's heart skipped a beat. After being stunned for a while, Dong Fian finally reacted and said carefully, "I don't think he did it on purpose. Why don't you forgive him, all right?" Li Changxing smiled. "Since Miss Dong has said so, I will give you face." Li Changxing looked at the bald, middle-aged man. "I will forgive you this time. Next time, remember to open your eyes." After he had finished speaking, he walked towards the top of the mountain. This time, no one dared to stand out and stop him. Only when Li Changxing's figure disappeared did the rich people let out a long sigh of relief. The bald, middle-aged man quickly walked before Dong Fian and said gratefully, "Thank you, Miss Dong, for speaking up for me. In the future, if Miss Dong has any orders, I will do my best and will not refuse." At this time, with Dong Fian's intelligence, how could she not know that Li Changxing had given her a big favor? This bald, middle-aged man was a well-known entrepreneur in the north. If she could make him owe her a favor, it would be of great benefit to her family's business. She originally hated Chao Buishu because of her family, but she had to endure it. She couldn't even make her own decisions about many things. But now was different. As long as she had the support of this bald, middle-aged man, her status in the family would be completely different. As for Chao Buishu, perhaps he wouldn't dare to pester her anymore after today. For a moment, she looked at the direction where Li Changxing disappeared on the top of the mountain. Suddenly, she felt that his ordinary face seemed to have become handsome. Chapter 250. Halfway up the mountain, everyone widened their eyes and looked curiously in the direction where Li Changxing disappeared. Those people just now were all famous rich people in the north, especially the bald middle-aged man, whose identity was not ordinary. However, because of Li Changxing's words, he was so scared that his legs trembled. What's going on? What's the identity of that young man? Is he a top, rich, second generation of the northern sect? Or is he the son of a hermit family? Otherwise, how could these rich people be so respectful? Everyone's hearts were full of doubts. Could it be that he is one of the two big shots who are going to duel on the top of the mountain today? Someone guessed. It can't be. I heard that one of the duels is Master Guinghua from Yinjing, and the other is Mr. Li, who has recently emerged in Qingzhou. I know Guinghua, but she's in her 50s or 60s. It can't be her. Is it that Mr. Li? How can he be so young? Many people shook their heads and felt that it was incredible. Many people in the cultivation world who really knew the inside story came after hearing the news, but their eyes flickered. The famous Mr. Li turned out to be so young. They were invited by Guinghua to come here this time because they were curious about the bold young man who dared to fight with Guinghua, a guru realm strong. On the other side, Chao Buishu and Lori were completely dumbfounded. Lori, in particular, was the son of a top 500 company in Huaxia. He knew very well how terrifying the identities of those rich people were. Even his father had to be courteous and respectful when meeting those people. But now, because of Li Changxing's words, he revealed a terrified expression. Who is this young man? Is he the son of the richest man in Huaxia? Of course, the richest man was not the one who was known as the nation's husband. The real financial tycoons disdained to appear on the convinced list. Thinking of this, Lori couldn't help but feel a little excited. Li Changxing obviously treated Dong Fian differently. If he had a good relationship with Dong Fian, wouldn't he be able to hug this mysterious crown prince? As for the idea of pursuing Dong Fian in his heart at that time, he had already suppressed it at the bottom of his heart. What a joke, trying to snatch a woman from this master. Isn't that courting death? Dong Buishu felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. When he recalled his provocation to Li Changxing before he got off the car, he was so scared that his legs were trembling. At this time, Li Changxing had already reached the peak of Tsang Mountain. At this moment, there was no one on Tsang Mountain. Before Li Changxing and Gu Yinghua arrived, no one dared to go up the mountain. Walking to the edge of the cliff, Li Changxing sat down on a round rock and closed his eyes to cultivate. The cold mountain wind blew across his cheeks. His ordinary face finally had a bit of an unfathomable feeling in the background of the surrounding environment. Just as Li Changxing's cultivation gradually entered a good state, and he was inhaling and exhaling the vast mountain range, a series of light footsteps interrupted his cultivation. Li Changxing turned his head and saw a beautiful lady in white looking at him quietly. It was Ding Qingxue, the Shushan disciple of the 100 Medicine Hall on Xinglong Street. "Why are you here?" Li Changxing was puzzled. As far as he could remember, this woman had never given him a good look. "Of course I'm here to watch the battle. The Northern Sect's cultivation master, Gu Yinghua, is challenging the famous Qingzhou's Mr. Li. Recently, the news has spread throughout the cultivation world. Is there any suspense in such a battle?" Li Changxing curled his lips in disdain. Although Ding Qingxue was angry when she saw Li Changxing's appearance, she couldn't refute. She thought of Mount Shu's sect master, Sima Changkong, who was a great Xiantian cultivator, had his arm cut off by Li Changxing's sword and fled in fear. Although Gu Yinghua was famous, she was only in the guru realm. In fact, her strength was about the same as her brother, Ding Qingyan. When she met Li Changxing, it was simply an egg striking a stone. She snorted softly, but still said, "Although you don't need to care about Gu Yinghua with your strength, I still have to remind you that I heard that Gu Yinghua obtained a powerful magic treasure a few years ago. Although her strength is not great, with the help of that magic treasure, she can fight across realms. Be careful when you fight later." I didn't expect the ice goddess to care about others. Li Changxing smiled. He expressed his gratitude to Ding Qingxue. After all, she had good intentions. Ding Qingxue's personality was originally unsociable. If Li Changxing didn't take the initiative to speak, she naturally wouldn't speak again. He walked to the side and sat down, waiting quietly. Soon after, with a series of footsteps, Gu Yinghua walked up the mountain path, surrounded by a group of people. When he saw Li Changxing's appearance clearly, his face revealed a bit of surprise. "I didn't expect the famous Mr. Li to be so young. Unfortunately, you still have a lot of time. Unfortunately, you're going to die here today." Gu Yinghua's face was full of self-satisfaction. The reason he held today's decisive battle was not that he thought Li Changxing's strength was on par with his and was worthy of him taking action. It was only because he was afraid of Su Xiaolin and the sick tiger Qiyu behind Li Changxing. He wanted to use this method to shut their mouths. With his appearance, countless cultivators and rich people on the mountain peak followed closely. Soon, the empty mountain peak became lively. However, everyone consciously opened up a large open space for the two of them to fight. In particular, many cultivators were curiously sizing up Li Changxing. At this time, the wind on the mountain peak was blowing, causing everyone's clothes to flutter. Gu Yinghua was wearing a long robe and had the demeanor of an immortal. However, his eyes were very cold. Li Changxing stood up and looked at Gu Yinghua indifferently. He said coldly, "Gu Yinghua, as a martial arts grandmaster, you took out the ginseng for an auction and I bought it. You ordered your disciple to steal the ginseng. How dare you call yourself a cultivation grandmaster of the Northern Sect? How disgusting. Your first disciple, Zhang Zilong, was the thief who stole the ginseng. I killed him. He deserved it. Instead of reflecting on your sins from your disciple's death, you want to challenge me. You say it's revenge for your disciple, but it's just to protect your false reputation. I asked you to come and apologize because I wanted to give you a chance to repent, but you didn't cherish it. Instead, you sent a letter of challenge to me. Originally, with your status, you were not worthy of my attention. However, I, Li Changxing, accepted the challenge because I want to correct the atmosphere of the cultivation world. I also want to use your blood to tell everyone that although the path of cultivation is one with a strong praise on the weak, there must be a bottom line. People who do not deserve to be called grandmasters. After saying that, Li Changxing took a step forward and raised his palm. With a great momentum, he slapped down on Gu Yinghua. In an instant, the mountain wind on Tsang Mountain fell silent. The entire world seemed to be enveloped in his palm. Chapter 251. Boom! Li Changsheng raised his hand, and the entire sky became silent, as if he had become the master of this world. His palm fell and swept towards Guinghua with terrifying power. In an instant, it was as if thousands of hectares of seawater were crashing down. The terrifying aura made everyone feel suffocated. Bang! There was a dull sound. Guinghua was directly sent flying by the palm and fell to the ground, smashing a rock the size of a house behind him into pieces. Everyone in the field widened their eyes when they saw how powerful Yi Futian was. Li Changsheng, no wonder you're so confident. Your strength surprised me. Guinghua wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. His eyes flickered and there was a hint of fear. However, he did not flinch because of Li Changsheng's attack. He opened his hands and stomped on the ground. Several huge rocks behind him flew in a line and smashed towards Li Changsheng. Bang! There was a loud sound. Li Changsheng stomped on the ground and shot out like an arrow. His body left a series of afterimages in the sky and rushed towards the huge rocks that were falling down. Bang, 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 bang. In an instant, Li Changsheng appeared above Guinghua's head. The huge rocks were smashed into pieces in the air and fell down. Guinghua, do you dare to take a punch from me? Guinghua's expression changed drastically. Facing this punch made him feel a strong sense of crisis. Boom! There was a loud sound. His body flew up and opened his arms. He moved back like a big bird and landed more than 100 feet away. There was a huge pit where he was just a few meters deep and dozens of meters deep. The power of this punch was terrifying. Li Changsheng landed from the sky and looked at Guinghua quietly. He said indifferently, Guinghua, didn't you want to avenge your disciple? Why are you as timid as a mouse? You don't even have the courage to take my punch. Guinghua's expression changed. From the first time Li Changsheng attacked, he regretted that day's battle. The second punch made his eyelids twitch. It's too terrifying. If he hadn't dodged in time, that punch would have been enough to blast his body into smithereens. I didn't expect this young man in his 20s to be so powerful. Could it be that he started cultivating in his mother's womb? On the other hand, those cultivators in the surroundings who originally thought that Guinghua would definitely win had their eyes wide open at this moment. Only now did they know why this unprepossessing young man had the confidence to fight Guinghua. Those rich people were so shocked that their hearts almost jumped out of their throats. It was as if they had seen a miracle. Just now, Li Changsheng had actually soared into the sky, ignoring the Earth's gravity. Was he still human? Li Changsheng, even if I underestimated your cultivation base, I, Guinghua, will never fight a battle that I have no confidence in. Even if you're a greater heaven cultivator, you must die today. As soon as Guinghua finished speaking, he suddenly stomped on the ground and flew up to a height of 10 meters. He clasped his hands together, and a blade made of light condensed in his hands. He slashed it down at Li Changsheng's head. In an instant, the domain that Li Changsheng had formed on the peak was instantly broken, and the whistling wind appeared again. One could see that the transparent blade of light had cut the air in half with a powerful force. It's actually a kind of magic. There was a bit of surprise in Li Changsheng's eyes. No wonder the other party is so confident after seeing my strength. Magic was a true magic of the immortals, which was many times more powerful than ordinary moves. However, each kind of magic was secretly passed down by each sect and could only be created by experts in the primordial spirit realm. Even a super sect like Mount Shu had only passed down 3 kinds of magic. Guinghua had actually mastered a kind of magic, and it was an offensive magic that allowed Guinghua to exert an attack power that was not inferior to that of the greater heaven realm. I didn't expect you to have such an opportunity. It's a pity that your cultivation base is too low to exert the power of this magic. Li Changsheng shook his head and said, Indeed, no matter how powerful a cultivation method was, it still depended on the strength of the caster. It was just like the relationship between electric current and motor. No matter how powerful a motor was, it would be useless if the electric current was insufficient. Li Changsheng, don't talk nonsense. Even if I'm not strong enough, I can still kill you. Gu Yinghua sneered and slashed down with the blade in his hand. The blade was enough to split a tank in half. In his opinion, Li Changxing's flesh and blood could not block it at all. However, in the face of the dazzling blade, Li Changxing only raised his fist and punched out. The spiral fist force roared out and hit the blade, instantly shattering the blade into pieces. How is this possible? This time, Gu Yinghua's expression changed completely. There's a kind of cultivation method in the world called body cultivation. It brings the potential of the body to the extreme. Without any weapons, the strength of the body is not inferior to magic treasures. One punch can break all kinds of methods. It's a pity that my strength is too low now. Otherwise, that punch just now would have been enough to take your life. Li Changsheng shook his head and felt a little regretful. The offensive power of the 9 transformations of the celestial demon was unparalleled. However, due to the limitations of his realm, although the quality of the true qi in his body was high, the quantity was insufficient. This caused the fist force in his punch to be exhausted after shattering the blade of light. Otherwise, he would have been able to destroy a mere Gu Yinghua in one move. Body cultivation method? No wonder you are so strong and can break my magic with your physical strength. Li Changsheng, even I am afraid of your strength. It's a pity that you shouldn't have accepted the challenge today. Perhaps in 10 or 20 years, I can only look up to you. But now, you can only die. Many people know that I obtained a Dharma artifact in an ancient cave abode 20 years ago. However, very few people have truly seen the power of my Dharma artifact. Li Changsheng, you should be content to die under this Dharma artifact today. Gu Yinghua waved his hand, and a spinning blade wheel appeared in his hand. The blade wheel grew larger and larger, and was surrounded by silver blades like a saw. The blade wheel flew out and spun continuously in the sky, forming a powerful blade qi. It turned into the size of a small mountain and cut through the sky towards Li Changsheng. The power of this attack was definitely enough to injure a Khanate realm martial artist. It could even kill an early-stage Khanate realm martial artist. Is this your trump card? It's only SOSO. Li Changsheng sneered and waved his fist to meet the attack. The huge blade wheel was directly destroyed by Li Changsheng's fist and smashed into a pile of fragments. At the same time, Li Changxing's fist force opened a path in the air and directly smashed down in front of Gu Yinghua. Li Changsheng, do you think my Dharma artifact is so simple? Facing Li Changsheng, who was rushing in front of him, Gu Yinghua didn't panic at all. The fragments of the huge blade wheel smashed by Li Changsheng instantly turned into hundreds of small blade wheels and rushed towards Li Changsheng. This is the real power of my blade wheel. Li Changsheng, let's see if he can die this time. Gu Yinghua sneered. Li Changxing's strength was undoubtedly beyond his expectations. However, he was also glad that today's decisive battle would allow him to get rid of Li Changsheng once and for all. Otherwise, if Li Changsheng really endured for 8 or 10 years and waited for his strength to increase, he would be in real danger at that time. You can only blame yourself for not knowing how to endure. After killing you, I, Gu Yinghua, will become even more famous. Chapter 252. The broken wheel turned into hundreds of smaller ones, and each of them was as powerful as a bullet. It was as if hundreds of people were pulling the trigger at the same time. Light of a grain of rice. Li Changsheng waved his palm and formed a circular light wall in front of him. When the wheel came into contact with the light wall, they were all stuck to it. Then, as Li Changsheng waved his hand, the wheel was directed to the side and hit the ground, shattering a blue stone. Gu Yinghua, what other tricks do you have now? If you don't use them now, you won't have a chance. With one hand behind his back, Li Changsheng looked at Gu Yinghua indifferently, his eyes filled with calmness. He raised his palm and gently clapped it in front of him. Suddenly, a palm made of qi pressed down on Gu Yinghua. The palm was like a green mountain, and its power was like the firmament. The palm seemed to be casual, but when it flew halfway, it was like a mountain pressing down, emitting a terrifying power. At this moment, Guinghua's face was full of horror. He originally thought that Li Changsheng was young, and even if he was strong, he couldn't be that strong. With the power of his Dharma artifact, he could kill Li Changsheng. But at this moment, he realized what kind of monster he was facing. Every attack he made was easily broken by Li Changsheng. Even a casual attack from Li Changsheng was difficult for him to block, especially the power of this palm strike. It was even more powerful than the palm strike he had just used. Perhaps even a Xiantian expert would not be able to block it. Li Changsheng, I'll kill you, Guinghua shouted loudly. He waved his hand, and the wheel that was shattered by Li Changsheng gathered again. Then, under his control, it suddenly exploded from the middle. Suddenly, a terrifying energy spread towards Li Changsheng. In particular, the palm made of qi was instantly shattered. I detonated this Dharma artifact, which is enough to kill a Khanate realm expert. Li Changsheng, you forced me to do this. Guinghua's eyes were filled with madness. This magic tool was his foundation, his greatest trump card. But now, in order to deal with Li Changsheng, he had no choice but to give it up. It seems that you master and disciple are of the same origin. You like to detonate your magical equipment at the drop of a hat. But do you think you can deal with me with this? Li Changsheng's expression did not change in the slightest in the face of the terrifying energy bombarding him. He raised his fist, took a step forward, and punched forward. Suddenly, the ball of energy was split open from the middle. Li Changsheng's body was unharmed. To be able to break through the energy generated by the explosion of a magical artifact with just the strength of his physical body, could this Li Changsheng be a peak Xiantian cultivator? Many cultivators from the northern realm of Dao widened their eyes. In their hearts, Guinghua was already considered a master. It wasn't until they saw the current Li Changsheng that they understood what Dao arts were and what divine abilities were. As for those rich people, they had long been trembling in fear. They couldn't help but want to kneel on the ground and call him an immortal. This scene could only be seen in special effects in movies, but now it happened in reality. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it even if they were beaten to death. At this time, in the center of the battlefield, Guinghua's eyes were full of fear. He stared at Li Changsheng with shock in his heart. This blade wheel was his greatest trump card, but now it was easily broken by Li Changsheng. Facing Li Changsheng, he was about to despair. Guinghua followed his master to cultivate at the age of 8. He broke through the 7th level of the Qi refinement realm at the age of 15, reached the peak of the Qi refinement realm at the age of 30, and officially entered the Grandmaster realm at the age of 45. He was respected as a master of the northern sect. He thought that his aptitude was already at the top among his peers. But today, he finally knew what a genius was. From the moment the blade wheel was broken by Li Changsheng, Guinghua had lost the courage to continue fighting. He looked at Li Changsheng and sighed. Since he was born, why was Liang born? Hearing his words, Li Changsheng just snorted coldly. You compare yourself to Zhouyu. You're not worthy. With that, Li Changsheng directly waved his hand. Endless qi of heaven and earth condensed in his palm, and then he slapped at Guinghua. The moment the palm was formed, the whole world returned to Li Changsheng's control. The whistling wind and the energy fluctuations caused by the explosion of the magic weapon all disappeared. In the sky, only the roar caused by the palm reverberated. The surrounding people watching the battle widened their eyes. At this moment, everyone knew that Li Changsheng had the absolute upper hand. Facing Li Changsheng's descending palm, Guinghua's originally despairing face suddenly revealed a look of determination. Li Changsheng, so what if you're talented? Since you don't want to let me live, then you can forget about living. With that, he suddenly raised his head. His black hair fluttered, and blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. Then his body began to crack, and a terrifying energy rose from his body. At this moment, the aura on his body was not inferior to that of a Khanate realm warrior. In fact, it was much stronger. Back then, I obtained a magical artifact in an ancient cavern. I obtained a divine ability, and at the same time, I also obtained a secret technique. At the cost of burning my life force, I unleashed a killing move. Li Changsheng, to be able to drag a prodigy like you down with me before I die, it's not a loss. Gu Yinghua smiled sinisterly. His body was wrapped in a layer of red light. It was actually a flame. As the flame burned, the energy condensed on his body became more and more terrifying. In the end, it condensed into a blood-red long saber. At this moment, Li Changsheng's palm had already fallen, and there was a roar in the sky. The palm carried a terrifying power and directly hit Gu Yinghua's body. However, in the next moment, the blood-red saber light slashed out and shattered Li Changsheng's palm. In the end, the saber light continued to expand, and in the blink of an eye, it was dozens of feet long. At the same time, Gu Yinghua's entire body was wrapped in a ball of flame. The flame burned his chi and blood and his vitality every minute and every second. His face rapidly aged, and his hair turned white. In the end, he was burned by the flame. Die! Gu Yinghua let out a maniacal laugh. The blood-red long saber that was dozens of feet long slashed down at Li Changsheng with terrifying energy. It was a fatal blow. This was Gu Yinghua's killing move. This magical power was called the blood-imbibing saber. This saber not only drank the enemy's blood, but also his own. The blood-red long saber instantly fell, and Li Changsheng's body was completely engulfed by the saber light. At this moment, Gu Yinghua's flesh and blood had been completely burned away, revealing his eerie white bones. Only his head was still intact, but he was already so old that he no longer resembled a human. He forced his eyes open and stared fixedly in Li Changsheng's direction. So what if you're a genius? You're still going to die with me. At this moment, Gu Yinghua's consciousness had begun to blur. He should have died, but with his last bit of obsession, he could barely maintain a trace of consciousness. However, when the intense saber light dissipated, he saw a figure standing quietly. He had burned his life to launch an attack, but it did not hurt Li Changsheng at all. How is this possible? This was his last thought. Unfortunately, no one could give him an answer. When the flames on his body reached their peak, his head was instantly burned to ashes. The northern sect's Taoist master died in front of everyone with unwillingness and questions in his heart. Chapter 253. Li Changsheng 1. Several of Gu Yinghua's disciples stood on the spot in a daze. As for the cultivators who were invited to watch the battle, their eyes were wide open. Aside from the whistling mountain wind, there was only silence on the peak of the mountain. Countless people were looking up at the peak halfway up the mountain. When Gu Yinghua appeared and led a group of cultivators to the top of the mountain, the others were told that they could only watch from halfway up the mountain. Many people were cursing in their hearts. The mountain was so high that they couldn't even see a ghost halfway up the mountain. What was the point? However, it didn't take long for a rumbling sound to be heard from the top. It sounded like a cannon. Some people speculated that the battle between the two of them might have used explosives or grenades. Everyone began to feel lucky that they didn't go up. Otherwise, they would have been killed by mistake. However, in the next moment, they saw a saber light slashing down from the sky. Everyone was dumbfounded. Are you sure this isn't a movie special effect? At this time, many people recalled the rumors about Master Gu. He was an immortal who was proficient in Taoism and had supernatural powers. When these words reached her ears, Dong Fian covered her mouth in surprise. So, the sound that was heard back then was the work of this Master Gu. If this Master Gu is so powerful and Li Changsheng can fight with him, then who is Li Changsheng? Is he also such a godly figure? That Master Gu is so old and powerful. Li Changsheng is so young. Will he be a match for Master Gu? For a moment, her mind was in a mess. However, Chao Buishu, who was originally pale, smiled and thought to himself, it's best if that Li Changsheng dies on the top of the mountain. That way, I won't have to worry about his revenge. At the peak of the mountain, everyone looked at the ordinary-looking young man in casual clothes. They couldn't believe that he would be the one to win in the end. Looking at the looks of disbelief on their faces, Li Changsheng smiled and said, "What's wrong? You seem to be unhappy that I won." His gaze swept across everyone present. Not only Gu Yinghua's disciples, but everyone else trembled. They were all invited by Gu Yinghua to watch the match, which meant that they had a good relationship with Gu Yinghua and could be considered her people. Now that Li Changsheng had won, it would be understandable if Li Changsheng treated them as enemies. Originally, these people were all famous figures in the world of cultivation, and each of them had their own pride. However, after seeing Li Changsheng's strength just now, they were afraid that all of them combined would not be enough to beat Li Changsheng with one punch. Congratulations to Mr. Li for your victory, an old man in his 50s said. Although he wasn't as famous as Gu Yinghua in the northern cultivation world, he was still a Grandmaster realm cultivator with a very high status. As soon as he spoke, the others immediately reacted and cupped their fists. Mr. Li's remarkable abilities are truly admirable. Mr. Li is amazing. Mr. Li is mighty. Although there were all kinds of words, they were all flattering. At this time, Ding Qingxue, who was next to them, saw all of this. While she despised these people in the world of cultivation for having no backbone, she also sighed. After today, in the northern cultivation world, Li Changsheng's name would probably be known by everyone. Although these cultivators were frightened, they could still barely keep calm. However, those rich people had long been so scared that their legs had turned to jelly and they all knelt on the ground. Immortal Li, greetings, Immortal Li. Immortal, we have nothing to do with Gu Yinghua. Please don't misunderstand. When we go back, I will definitely build a shrine for you at home and worship your memorial tablet. Hearing what they said, Li Changsheng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He shook his head and said, "Get up. Don't call me immortal. Just call me Mr. Li." After he finished speaking, his gaze landed on the few disciples who came with Gu Yinghua. Seeing Li Changsheng's gaze, Gu Yinghua's disciples suddenly turned pale. Even their master, Gu Yinghua, had died at the hands of Li Changsheng. Naturally, they were no match for Li Changsheng, let alone avenge their master. At this moment, their faces were pale and full of despair. With Li Changsheng's strength, if he wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as pinching an ant to death. They all stiffened and stood in place with their heads lowered, not daring to look directly at Li Changsheng. Among them, the young man who had sent the letter of challenge to Li Changsheng raised his head and said with difficulty, "The winner takes all. If you want to kill me, just do it." Indeed, they couldn't escape, and they couldn't fight. Instead of waiting in fear, they might as well fight alone for once. The others also raised their heads. Some of the more timid ones' legs had begun to tremble, and some unknown liquid even flowed out. Although you were Gu Yinghua's disciples, the one who stole the ginseng was Zhang Zilong, and the one who sent the letter of challenge was Gu Yinghua. I, Li Changsheng, will not kill innocent people. As soon as Li Changsheng spoke, Gu Yinghua's disciples suddenly raised their heads with surprise in their eyes. Gu Yinghua often taught them to eliminate the root of the problem, especially in the cultivation world, where everyone killed without batting an eye. They originally thought that they would die, but now they heard hope. "Mr. Li, as long as you let us go, we are willing to follow your lead and do anything for you," a disciple said. "Although you can be exempted from death, you can't escape punishment." I originally planned to abolish your cultivation, but now I've changed my mind. As long as you can take out something to atone for your sins, I can choose to forgive you. Mr. Li is merciful. The sixth disciple directly took out a box from his arms. When he opened the box, there was the ginseng king inside. "My master asked me to keep this ginseng. I'll give it to you now." "Okay." Li Changsheng raised his hand. Without any movement, the ginseng flew into his hand out of thin air. "You took the initiative to give me the ginseng to make up for your sins. You can leave now." The sixth disciple seemed to have not expected Li Changsheng to be so easy to talk to. After coming to his senses, he immediately knelt down and kowtowed 3 times to Li Changsheng. Then, he walked toward the mountain path without looking back. "I have a jade pendant given to me by my master, as well as some magic tools and elixirs." Another disciple stepped forward and said. Li Changsheng also nodded and took them. letting them leave. These disciples had followed Guinghua for many years and had gotten a lot of things. Although they were messy, they were useful. Besides, Li Changsheng did not intend to kill them. As long as they were barely worth his attention, he would let them go. Soon, only one of the disciples who followed Guinghua here was left. It was Shi Lang, the young master of the Yin Jing family that Guinghua finally accepted. Seeing that his senior brothers had all taken out things to be pardoned, Shi Lang's face could not help but turn bitter. He had just become Guinghua's disciple, so he did not have any savings. Chapter 254. What? You don't want anything to atone for your sins? Do you have resentment in your heart and want to avenge your master? Li Changxing's gaze swept over indifferently, scaring Shi Lang so much that his legs went soft and he almost collapsed to the ground. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, No, I just don't have any treasures. No treasures? Li Changxing raised his eyebrows and was about to speak, but Shi Lang thought that Li Changxing was going to kill him and was so scared that he knelt on the ground with a plop. Sir, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Although I don't have any treasures, I have money. Can I exchange money for my life? Shi Lang was so scared that he kept kowtowing. In his opinion, an otherworldly expert like Li Changsheng would definitely not be interested in worldly wealth, but he only had money, which was useless. He said this completely out of desperation to save his life. Who knew that Li Changsheng's eyes would light up when he heard this? Although the previous few disciples of Guinghua had offered a mess of talismans and pills, the quality was too low to enter Li Changsheng's eyes. However, worldly wealth would buy a lot of medicinal herbs, which was what Li Changsheng needed at the moment. Tell me, how much money do you have? How much are you prepared to pay for your life? Li Changsheng smiled playfully, and there was a hint of cunning in his eyes. My family has hundreds of billions of assets, but I can only use 10 or 20 billion. I'm willing to take out 10 billion to buy my life. 10 billion is too little. Li Changsheng shook his head. It seems that there's no use for me to keep you. Shi Lang was so scared that he almost wet his pants when he heard this. He hurriedly said, 50 billion. Let my father sell his stocks and raise 50 billion to save me. All right, I know that my master has a lot of assets under his name. Now that he's dead, these should all be yours, Mr. Liu. Li Changxing's eyes lit up again as he thought. How could I have forgotten about this? This Guinghua has a lot of businesses in the secular world. It seems that you're still useful. How about this? You take over all of Guinhua's assets for me. If you do well, not only will I not take your 50 billion, I will also give you money and let you manage all of Guinghua's assets for me. Don't you like to cultivate? I can also teach you Dao techniques. You just need to help me earn money. Guinghua was known as the Northern Sect's master of cultivation. After so many years of operation, the wealth under her name was absolutely terrifying. If he could firmly grasp all of Guinghua's assets in his hands, it would be a treasure bowl. Hearing Li Changxing's words, Shi Lang was already surrounded by great joy. Thank you, Mr. Xie. I'll take good care of it for you. I'll be loyal to you. All right, you can get up. Li Changsheng waved his hand impatiently. This guy was so timid that Li Changsheng despised him from the bottom of his heart. However, just like Ren Juntang, Li Changsheng needed their ability to make money. As for their character, in his opinion, it was impossible to have their absolute loyalty. However, as long as he could make them unable to bear the consequences of betrayal, it would be enough. Seeing that Li Changsheng openly wanted to seize Guinghua's assets, many of Guinghua's friends present did not have any objection. In the world of cultivation, the strong were respected and the weak were prey to the strong. If the one who died now was Li Changsheng instead of Guinghua, perhaps Guinghua would be even more ruthless than Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng could let Guinghua and her disciples go, which was actually a great mercy. Now that this matter was over, Li Changsheng did not stay any longer. After saying goodbye to Ding Qingxue, who had a complicated expression, he walked down the mountain. When Li Changxing's figure disappeared from the top of the mountain, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Even though Li Changsheng would no longer pursue them, As long as Li Changxing stood there, they would feel suffocated and afraid. This was the deterrence brought about by the strong. In the future, Gu Yinghua will no longer exist in this world. With Gu Yinghua's wealth and the help of Su Xiaolin, the sick tiger, and Qi Yu, in the future in the north, whether in the world of cultivation or the secular world, I'm afraid that Li Changsheng will be the leader. Many people sighed in their hearts. After witnessing everything today, the rich businessmen began to calculate. Since this Mr. Li liked money, this was something they did not lack. If they could establish a relationship with this Mr. Li, they would be able to do whatever they wanted in the north in the future. The rich people's eyes flashed, and they firmly remembered Li Changxing's name, planning to visit Li Changsheng at any time. At this time, Li Changsheng had already left Song Mountain. When he was halfway up the mountain, he passed by Dong Fian and took the initiative to add her on WeChat. Dong Fian was a little flattered. After knowing Li Changxing's identity, she could no longer treat him as a normal person. She originally thought that with Li Changxing's identity, she was completely out of her league. In fact, when she saw Li Changsheng coming down, she was hesitating whether to ask for Li Changxing's contact information. She did not expect Li Changsheng to take the initiative to add her on WeChat. Happiness came too suddenly, and she was a little caught off guard. Li Changsheng had a good impression of this girl. Of course, he just wanted to make friends with her and had no other intentions. However, in the eyes of others, this scene was completely different. Dong Fian was so beautiful, so it was normal for Li Changsheng to be interested in her. After Li Changsheng left, many people looked at Dong Fian in a different light. By now, everyone knew that Li Changsheng was not ordinary. If they could become Li Changxing's woman, their status would be too high. Even if they did not become Li Changxing's woman, it would be amazing if they were just ordinary friends. Especially Lori, who said with a bit of flattery, "Miss Dong, we can be considered friends, right? Can you help me introduce Li Changsheng? Just say that I want to treat him to a meal." Chao Buoshu, who was standing beside Li Changsheng and being ignored by him, felt a wave of anger and a deep sense of powerlessness at the same time. He knew that his pursuit of Dong Fian would probably never have any hope. Regardless of whether Li Changsheng really liked Dong Fian or not, after seeing Li Changxing's extravagance today, Dong Fian would definitely not like a small figure like him. If you have seen the sea, you will not see water. If you have seen the sea, you will not see clouds. If you have seen the sea, who would be interested in a small river? Li Changsheng did not know that his sudden action would bring such a big change to Chao Fian's life. At this moment, he was already on the bus back to Qingzhou. Yesterday, he lent the Rolls-Royce to Yang Fan's relative for the wedding car. Today, Yang Fan said that in order to thank everyone for their help, he wanted to treat everyone to a meal. Thinking that today was Saturday, he took Yue out to improve the food. Because Yue's family was poor, she was not even willing to eat meat at school. Li Changsheng gave her money, but she refused it, which made his heart ache. Chapter 255. Li Changsheng returned to school, and life returned to normal. In the dormitory, Jiang Tao and the others' attitude towards Li Changsheng was obviously a bit strange. He owned a Rolls-Royce and even had a personal driver. Although they didn't know if Li Changxing's villa was real or not, just the Rolls-Royce alone was enough to make them dizzy. They were all very curious about Li Changxing's identity, but since Li Changsheng didn't want to say anything, they held back and didn't ask. Yang Fan had already returned Li Changxing's Rolls-Royce and said that he wanted to treat everyone to dinner to thank them for their help. Li Changsheng asked Yang Fan if he minded bringing his family. Yang Fan patted his chest and said, "Of course I don't mind. After dinner, I'll also pay for the couple's room." Li Changsheng laughed and said, "Don't taint my pure soul with those dirty thoughts." "You're pure?" "My pure face." Yang Fan's face was full of disdain as he muttered, "First it was by Qianxue, then it was Yu Wei, and now it's the school's goddess Wu Xiaowan. You're even together with the Chu family's genius, Miss Chu Mengmeng. You're worse than a beast." Li Changsheng couldn't be bothered to pay attention to them. He gave Yue a call and asked Jiang Tao to drive over to pick up Yue. Jiang Tao said that his BMW 5 Series was too outdated and that it would be better to drive Li Chongqing's Rolls-Royce. However, Li Chongqing refused. It wasn't that he cared about the car, but they were students after all. It wasn't good to be too high-profile. After picking up Yue from Greenvine Middle School, the group went to a high-end hotel. With Yang Fan's family background, it was obviously a bit extravagant to eat in such a high-end hotel. However, Yang Fan said that the money for this meal was paid for by the elders in his family. They thanked him for helping them borrow the car, so they didn't need to feel burdened at all. When Shang Jianping, Chun Wan, and the others saw Li Chongsheng, their expressions were a little strange. No matter how Li Chongsheng got his luxury car, at least it proved that Li Chongsheng was not as ordinary as they thought at the beginning. Although they were unwilling to admit it, they had already recognized Li Chongqing's position in their hearts and did not dare to look down on him. The few of them entered the hotel together and sat down in a luxurious private room. Yang Fan had already ordered the dishes, so he only needed to inform the waiter, and the dishes would be served one after another. First, Yang Fan, the protagonist, thanked Li Chongsheng, Shang Jianping, and Jiang Tao for lending him their cars. Then, he recalled the time they had known each other, which made the originally unfamiliar atmosphere become harmonious. At this moment, Zhang Mingming suddenly said, "Yang Fan is treating today, but Jianping and I also have good news to share with everyone." Hearing Zhang Mingming's words, everyone pricked up their ears. "Don't tell me that you and Shang Jianping are getting engaged? Wow. Mingming, you're going to marry into a rich family and become a rich lady," Hao Ting said with an envious look. "No." Zhang Mingming shook her head. Suing covered her mouth. "Could it be that you're pregnant with the fruit of your love?" This time, Zhang Mingming's face turned even redder to her ears. She hurriedly waved her hand and said, "Okay, don't make wild guesses. The more you guess, the more ridiculous it is. It's about Shang Jianping." Shang Jianping and his friends co-founded a company that has just been successfully listed. What? Everyone present widened their eyes. Even Jiang Tao, who had always disliked Shang Jianping, had a look of surprise in his eyes. Although Shang Jianping was a rich second generation, and his family must have put in a lot of effort to start a company, but to be able to get the company listed was also a very great thing in itself. Compared to Shang Jianping, Jiang Tao felt that he was a little overshadowed. "It's just a small company. I just play with my friends. I didn't expect it to be so successful," Shang Jianping said modestly, but there was a bit of pride in his eyes. He faintly glanced at Li Chongsheng and thought, even if Li Chongsheng's luck is good and he knows a few extraordinary people, how can he compare to me? Li Chongsheng relies on his connections, while I rely on my own strength. Although background is important, how far you can go in the future and how high you can climb, in the end, it all depends on your own skill and ability. Originally, during this meal, everyone's eyes were on Li Chongsheng, wanting to inquire about the origin of the luxury car. After all, everyone had a curiosity in their hearts. However, with the news of Shang Jianping's company being listed, everyone's attention was diverted. They were all inquiring about the name of Shang Jianping's company, how much money it earned every month, and Shang Jianping's entrepreneurial experience. For a time, Shang Jianping became the focus of the audience. Even Jiang Tao couldn't help but ask him about some business matters. As a rich second generation, he was quite stimulated today and was determined to learn from Shang Jianping. Although he didn't necessarily have a company, at least when he took over the family business in the future, no one would say that he was a playboy. During this time, Chenwan couldn't help but look at Li Chongsheng, thinking that it was right to let Zhang Mingming choose Shang Jianping. In the end, Li Chongsheng wasn't as outstanding as Shang Jianping. The atmosphere was harmonious, and with Yang Fan's constant urging to drink, everyone was a little dizzy, especially Shang Jianping, who was flushed with success and drank as if he was drinking water. I have to go to the bathroom first. When I come back, we'll continue to fight for 300 rounds. Jiang Tao's face was a little red from drinking, and he hurriedly ran out of the door. But just when he went out, He heard a bang, as if he had bumped into something. Then, a man's angry voice came out. "Do you not have eyes?" With a gloomy voice, they hurriedly went out and saw a chubby guy pointing at Jiang Tao's nose and cursing. Originally, Jiang Tao had an apologetic face for bumping into someone, but after being scolded by the other party, he became angry and said loudly, "I didn't do it on purpose. Why are you so uncultured? You still dare to talk back to me?" The chubby guy suddenly flew into a rage and raised his hand to slap Jiang Tao's cheek. At this time, Shang Jianping hurriedly stood up. "Young Master Zhu, this is my friend. Can you give me some face?" The chubby guy, who was about to slap Jiang Tao, was stunned. He looked at Shang Jianping from head to toe and then remembered something. "What's your name again?" "My name is Shang Jianping. We've met once at a banquet." "Oh, right. So it's you." After saying that, he withdrew his hand. "So he's your friend. But not only did he offend me, he even dared to scold me. You know my temper. I can't let this matter go." Zhu Xiaoming said coldly. Jiang Tao was about to say something, but Shang Jianping whispered, "He's Zhu Dapeng's son." "Zhu Dapeng?" Jiang Tao's face was stunned, and then it instantly changed color. "You mean Zhu Dapeng, the chairman of Wanrong International?" In an instant, dense cold sweat appeared on his head. Wanrong International was a well-known company in the north. Although Jiang Tao was a rich second generation, he was nothing compared to Wanrong International. "I'm sorry, young Master Zhu." Jiang Tao was also a sensible person, so he hurriedly apologized. Only then did Zhu Xiaoming snort coldly. "Forget it. For Shang Jianping's sake, I won't argue with you." Several people around him breathed a sigh of relief. Wanrong International was a famous and powerful company. Almost everyone present had heard the name of his father, Zhu Dapeng. Seeing that the other party didn't argue, they all breathed a sigh of relief. Especially Zhang Mingming, who looked at Shang Jianping with eyes full of pride. She thought, "This is my boyfriend. He even knows the young master of Wanrong International." Others, such as Su Ying, Hao Ting, Chen Wan, Zhang Xiaofeng, and Yang Fan, looked at Shang Jianping in a different way, which made Shang Jianping's image in their hearts become even higher. Chapter 256. By the way, why are you in Qingzhou? Shang Jianping remembered that Zhu Dapeng's Wanrong group didn't have a branch in Qingzhou. "I came to Qingzhou this time to accompany my father. Master Guinghua from Beijing and Mr. Li from Qingzhou are having a duel at the peak of Tsang Mountain. We originally came with Master Gu, but we didn't expect Master Gu to lose in the end." Zhu Xiaoming waved his hand and said, "You won't understand even if I tell you this, but I still want to remind you that you have to be careful when you eat and drink in this hotel today. My father is hosting a banquet with some big shots who came to watch the duel. The chairman of Cloud Valley Technology and the boss of Fonghung Group are all here. It's fine if you offend me, but if you offend those big shots, they won't give you face like I did." Yes. Shang Jianping and Jiang Tao both nodded hurriedly. Then they asked with some doubt, "By the way, who are Master Gu and Mr. Li? They can actually attract so many rich people in the circle." Zhu Xiaoming was a little interested at this time. Master Gu is a very powerful person. Not only does he have supernatural abilities, but his business in the secular world is also not inferior to our Wanrong group. However, from now on, there is no Master Gu in the world. Mr. Li, on the other hand, is a person who is even more awesome than Master Gu. He can be called the #1 person in the north now. He is from Qingzhou. Haven't you heard of him? Qingzhou, Mr. Li. Everyone present was confused. However, Chenwan thought for a while and suddenly thought of something. Some time ago, the father and son of the Qin family fell because of Mr. Li. Yes, I remember too. Hearing Chen Wan's words, the others nodded. By the way, what does Mr. Li look like? I've only heard of his name, but I've never seen any news reports about him. I've never even seen a picture of him. He's really mysterious. Zhang Mingming asked. Zhu Xiaoming was about to speak when he suddenly caught a glimpse of Li Changsheng standing behind Zhang Xiaofeng. Because Zhang Xiaofeng was taller than Li Changsheng and Li Changsheng stood there without speaking, Zhu Xiaoming didn't notice at that time. At this moment, when he saw Li Changxing's face clearly, his body suddenly trembled. However, he couldn't bring himself to say the following words. Li Changxing saw the abnormality on Zhu Xiaoming's face and remembered that the person who had been with the bald middle-aged man today was this young man. Seeing that Li Changxing was so low-key, Zhu Xiaoming naturally didn't dare to casually reveal his identity without Li Changxing's permission. No matter how powerful Mr. Li is, he's just an ordinary man. There's nothing to talk about, Li Changxing said. Zhu Xiaoming hurriedly nodded in agreement. That's right. You don't know each other anyway. It's useless to ask so many questions. Following that, everyone asked for more information about Mr. Li, but Zhu Xiaoming gave them vague answers. Looking at Li Changxing's half-smile, he suddenly wiped the cold sweat on his head. Young Master Zhu, what's wrong? Shang Jianping asked with concern. I'm fine. I'm fat, and the weather is a little hot. After saying that, he said goodbye. I still have something to do, so I won't disturb you. Enjoy your meal. After Zhu Xiaoming left, Chenwan wondered, this young Master Zhu was so arrogant at that time. Why did he suddenly become so polite? And why do I feel that he's afraid of Li Changxing? It had to be said that a girl's intuition was really accurate. However, as soon as she said that, Shang Jianping denied it. What's young Master Zhu's identity? Looking at the entire north, he's a first-tier young master. Why would he be afraid of Li Changxing? You might as well say that pigs can climb trees. Ha! Ha! Zhang Mingming and the others couldn't help but laugh. Shang Jianping still wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Jiang Tao. All right, everyone, let's go in and continue eating. He was afraid that Shang Jianping would say something unpleasant and make Li Changxing lose face. Young Master Shang, it's all thanks to you. Otherwise, I wouldn't know how I died today. I'll go to the bathroom first. When I come back, I'll definitely toast you 3 cups of wine. Only then did Jiang Tao remember why he had come out. At this moment, everyone once again returned to the private room. Because of what happened just now, they all regarded Shang Jianping as a hero. Even Jiang Tao, who didn't like Shang Jianping before, came in and repeatedly toasted Shang Jianping. On the other hand, Shang Jianping had obviously stolen all the limelight from Shang Jianping, even though he had lent Shang Jianping a Rolls-Royce Tiang fan and was now shrouded in a mysterious aura. His company was successfully listed, and he was acquainted with a first-tier young master like young Master Zhu. It could be said that Shang Jianping was in the limelight. Yu Yue saw all of this and felt a little angry in her heart. Thinking about it, Li Changxing only needed to call Su Xiaolin, and Su Xiaolin had to obediently follow him around. Although Yu Yue didn't know what kind of status Su Xiaolin had in her circle, she felt that he definitely wasn't inferior to young Master Zhu's father. That was because he had the strongest aura among all the people Yu Yue had met. My Changsheng is low-key. Otherwise, who knows how many times stronger than this Shang Jianping? Yu Yue pouted and muttered. At this moment, there was a sudden knock on the door. Come in, Yang Fan said. Everyone looked at the door of the private room in confusion. They saw the door open, and Zhu Xiaoming walked in with a flattering face. Everyone, my father and the others heard that you are here and would like to invite you to have a drink together. I wonder if he could do me the honor? As soon as he finished speaking, everyone looked at Shang Jianping. In their opinion, with Zhu Xiaoming's status, he must be here for Shang Jianping to personally invite them. Sure enough, Shang Jianping's face showed a proud expression. He thought to himself, even young Master Zhu came to invite me. Could it be that the news of my company being listed has reached the ears of these big shots? For a moment, he was excited and even began to fantasize about being recognized by these big shots and soaring to the sky. After he came back to his senses, he nodded and said, well, since young Master Zhu invited everyone, let's go and have a look together. Seeing Shang Jianping nodding, Zhu Xiaoming didn't care. Instead, he kept looking at Li Changxing. What do you think? Zhu Xiaoming asked with a respectful expression. Because everyone present had drunk a lot of wine, they didn't notice the change in Zhu Xiaoming's expression. Only Chanwan vaguely heard the word sir in Zhu Xiaoming's address. But because she just got up and knocked over a wine glass, the wine spilled out. She was afraid that it would spill on her clothes and hurriedly dodged, so she didn't hear it clearly. She shook her head and thought, this Zhu Xiaoming is obviously here for Shang Jianping. Li Changsheng may not be able to enter young Master Zhu's eyes, even if he has 10 Rolls Royces, let alone one. I must have heard it wrong. Chapter 257. Young Master Zhu. Why do you need to ask him for his opinion? It doesn't matter if he goes or not. Besides, he's a very boring person and doesn't like to communicate with others. We'll just go over. Shang Jianping didn't want Li Changsheng to get acquainted with the rich people in Zhu Xiaoming's circle. In his opinion, it was too easy for Li Changsheng. Unexpectedly, Zhu Xiaoming ignored Shang Jianping and continued to look at Li Changsheng. I won't go over. Let them come and see me. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, Chen Wan and the others widened their eyes and looked at Li Changsheng in disbelief. They couldn't understand why Li Changsheng would say such a thing, especially Shang Jianping, who shouted angrily, Li Changsheng, who do you think you are? Let Chairman Zhu and the others come and see you. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Today, Shang Jianping was complacent and a little smug. Coupled with his old hatred for Li Changsheng, he couldn't help but erupt at this moment. As soon as Shang Jianping's voice fell, Zhu Xiaoming glared at Li Changsheng fiercely before he could speak. Shut up. Who told you to be rude to Mr. Li? I think you're tired of living. This time, everyone was even more dumbfounded. What's going on? Didn't Zhu Xiaoming and Shang Jianping know each other and invited Li Changsheng because of Shang Jianping? Why is he angry at Shang Jianping because he disrespected Li Changsheng? He didn't even give Shang Jianping face. Shenwan recalled how Zhu Xiaoming addressed Li Changsheng and suddenly thought of something. Young Master Zhu. Shang Jianping was dumbfounded, but he still carefully called out Zhu Xiaoming's name. Zhu Xiaoming snorted coldly and ignored him. Instead, he smiled at Li Changsheng and said, I'll go and tell father and the others. After saying that, he turned and left the box. After Zhu Xiaoming left, the room fell into absolute silence. Everyone stared at Li Changsheng with their eyes wide open. Li Changsheng, what's going on? Jiang Tao and Li Changsheng had a close relationship, so he asked the question in his heart. Actually, I've been hiding my identity. Li Changsheng thought about it and felt that there was no need to hide it any longer. However, when he said that, everyone couldn't help but let their imaginations run wild. Li Changsheng, could it be that you're the son of an official? Chen Wan guessed. The rich were afraid of the powerful. If Li Changsheng's family was an official, then it was understandable why Zhu Xiaoming, the young master of the Wanrong group, would be so respectful to him. This could also explain why Li Changsheng usually dressed so inconspicuously. No wonder he has a Rolls-Royce but doesn't drive it out. With his status, if he drives such a luxurious car, wouldn't he be blackmailing the elders in his family? Li Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head when he saw everyone's gaze. I'm not the son of an official. Then you're the son of a hidden family? I heard that there are many big families in China that have been passed down for more than 100 years. They usually keep a low profile and don't show their wealth, but in fact, they are far more powerful than those businessmen on the surface. Li Changsheng still shook his head. You wouldn't be that Mr. Li who has recently become famous in Qingzhou, would you? Hao Ting blurted out. Suddenly, the box fell into silence again. Mr. Li, there were too many things about that Mr. Li recently. Even ordinary students like them had heard about it. Especially Qin Yi, one of the 4 young masters of the school, who inexplicably disappeared because he offended Mr. Li. Impossible. Shang Jianping was the first to shake his head and deny it. Mr. Li is such a person. I heard from my dad that even Su Xiaolin and the sick tiger Qi, you have to be respectful when they see him. How would he be Li Changsheng? Although he had already thought of Li Changsheng's identity infinitely high, Shang Jianping still did not think that Li Changsheng had such a high status. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he saw a group of greasy men rush in. They were both young and old, and the leader of the group was the bald middle-aged man, Zhu Xiaoming's father, Zhu Daping. After he came in, he saw Li Changsheng standing there at first glance. He quickly walked over and said excitedly, "I heard from my son that Mr. Li was having a meal here. I didn't believe it, but I didn't expect it to really be you. I, Zhu Daping, pay my respects to you." At this moment, Chun Wan and the others' expressions became extremely shocked, especially Shang Jianping. It was as if he had been slapped loudly in the face. He had just denied that Li Changsheng was definitely not Mr. Li Changsheng. Now it was proven that Li Changsheng was Mr. Li. "Greetings, Mr. Li. Hello, Mr. Li." The group of middle-aged men who rushed and greeted Li Changsheng. "That's the chairman of Cloud Valley Technology. That's the general manager of Jiangbei Group. And that's the founder of Qiaomu." Among this group of people, there were several well-known entrepreneurs who often appeared in those financial magazines and on television. As soon as they appeared, they were recognized. However, it was these big shots who were usually high and mighty, influential figures in the business world that stood in front of Li Changsheng like slaves. They greeted Li Changsheng and waited for his orders. "Is he really Mr. Li?" Chunwan muttered to herself. At this moment, it was as if she had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Ever since she knew that Li Changsheng owned a Rolls-Royce, she had imagined Li Changsheng's identity countless times. She even changed her original evaluation of Li Changsheng and decided to give Li Changsheng a chance to be a spare tire. However, she never expected that even though she thought of Li Changsheng's status as the highest, she still underestimated Li Changsheng. "If I didn't reject Li Changsheng at the birthday party, would I be with him now?" Chunwan couldn't help but think. Shang Jianping's body even began to tremble. Others were only surprised by Li Changsheng's identity, but Shang Jianping was afraid. He had repeatedly provoked Li Changsheng, but he didn't expect Li Changsheng to be the infamous Mr. Li Changsheng. He thought about how even Qin Hao and his son died in Li Changsheng's hands. With his little power, he was just an ant. "If Li Changsheng wants to take revenge on me, what should I do?" For a moment, he felt as if he had fallen into an ice cellar and a great disaster was about to befall him. Meanwhile, Hao Ting, Su Ying, Zhang Xiaofeng, Yang Fan, and Jiang Tao all widened their eyes at this moment. This was a result that they would never have imagined, even if they were beaten to death. Now, it had happened without any warning. "Li Changsheng is Mr. Li. I really didn't recognize the real dragon." Yang Fan sighed. The one with the most complicated thoughts was Zhang Mingming. Compared with Li Changsheng's identity, Shang Jianping's achievements seemed to be nothing at this moment. "I gave up Li Changsheng and chose Shang Jianping. Was I wrong?" Chapter 258. Ignoring everyone's surprise, Li Changsheng smiled at Zhu Daping and the others and said, "No need to be so polite. If there's nothing else, you can go back and enjoy your meal. I'm having a gathering with a few friends and don't want to be disturbed." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Zhu Daping and the others immediately glanced at Jiang Tao and the others, secretly engraving these people who could be called friends by Li Changsheng. Even if it was just a casual remark from Li Changsheng, the famous Mr. Li, even a housekeeper who cleaned his house, could become the object of these rich people's flattery, not to mention people who could afford the word friend. When Zhu Daping and the others glanced at them, Jiang Tao and the others couldn't help but straighten their chests and spontaneously felt a sense of pride. It seemed that Li Changsheng's word of friend had infinitely raised their status. "Mr. Li, we really have something to ask you." Although Zhu Daping had heard Li Changsheng's words, he still opened his mouth and said, "Oh, what's the matter?" Li Changsheng was puzzled. "It's like this. We plan to invest in a medicinal company that specializes in collecting all kinds of medicinal herbs. Each of us will take out 10 billion and ask Mr. Li to be the company's chairman. How much do I need to invest?" Li Changsheng showed a bit of interest. He needed alchemy for his cultivation and had a great need for elixirs. If he had a medicinal company under his name, it would undoubtedly save a lot of trouble. Mr. Li, you don't need to invest. If you are willing to be the chairman, this will be the biggest investment, Zhu Dapeng said. This time, Li Chongqing finally understood. It turned out that these people were using different methods to give him money, taking out so much money for nothing. Tell me what you want. Li Chongqing knew that all businessmen were evil. How could these people be so kind as to take out so much money for nothing? Can we talk in private? Zhu Dapeng glanced at Jiang Tao and the others and said, Okay. Li Chongqing nodded and followed him to a private room next door. Only Zhu Dapeng and two middle-aged men followed in. The others were not qualified to come. Speak, Li Chongqing said indifferently. We want the prolongation pill. Can Mr. Li refine it? Seeing the doubt in Li Chongqing's eyes, Zhu Dapeng hurriedly explained. In the past, when Gu Yinghua was still alive, she clearly marked the price and sold a kind of life-prolonging pill. A rich man in the north was terminally ill, but because he ate that pill, he lived for 2 more years. Although it's only a short 2.5 years, to be able to live 2 more years on top of one's original lifespan is enough to make rich people go crazy. However, even with Gu Yinghua's level, he can only refine 2 or 3 of these pills a year. The reason why these rich people used to surround Gu Yinghua was because of his reputation and power in the north, and also because they wanted to obtain the life-prolonging pill. Because even if Gu Yinghua had the money, there was a limit to the amount he had, and he only sold it to those close to him. Life extension pill? There's such a pill? Li Chongqing scratched his head. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration. He remembered that he had seen a kind of pill that could improve one's physique. Sometimes when a person was about to die, it was actually because a certain organ in the body had aged to the extreme. If the pill could inject some vitality into the organ, it could indeed live for 2 more years. It was like a machine that was about to break down. As long as it was repaired, it could still be used for a period of time. This kind of pill isn't too difficult to refine. Li Chongqing thought for a moment and said, I can help you refine the prolongation pill, and I can refine as many as you want. However, I'll say this first. Eating this pill doesn't really have the effect of prolonging one's life. It can only strengthen one's physique. If it's taken frequently, it can indeed prolong one's life. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, Zhu Dapeng was overjoyed. He proposed to establish a company because he was betting that Li Chongqing was better than Gu Yinghua. If Gu Yinghua could refine the pill, Li Chongqing would definitely be able to refine it. Sure enough, when he heard that Li Chongqing could produce it in batches, he was even more excited. Who didn't want to live a long life? Since you want to invest in a pharmaceutical company and let me be the chairman, then I'll agree. However, I'll say this first. 90% of the herbs collected will be used for my cultivation. The rest will be used to refine the prolongation pill. You can rest assured that as long as you invest 10 billion a year, it will be more than enough to refine a few thousand pills. Okay, Mr. Li, it's settled. Zhu Dapeng was very excited after hearing this. One had to know that when Gu Yinghua sold the prolongation pill for 100 million a year, the rich people would go crazy to buy it. Only 2 or 3 people could buy it every year. Now, as long as they invested 10 billion a year, they could get more than 3,000 pills, which was enough for them to divide. After they were divided, they could take the rest of the pills and sell it for money. According to Gu Yinghua's price in the past, it was 100 million a pill, so 3,000 pills would be more than 300 billion. This way, not only could they eat the prolongation pill, but they could also get 2 or 3 times the profit. It was simply too cost-effective. Mr. Li, we've decided to build a company at the border between Chuzhou City and Qingzhou City. It's close to the Medicine King Valley, so it's more convenient to buy herbs every year. We'll go and choose the company's location in the next few days. When everything is ready, we can officially open. Zhu Dapeng couldn't wait. Li Chongqing nodded. They walked out of the room. When Zhu Dapeng told the news to the other rich people, they were all excited. Although Jiang Tao and the others didn't understand what Zhu Dapeng was talking about, they knew that Li Chongqing wanted to do a medicine business with them. Especially when they heard that each of them would invest 10 billion. They were all shocked. There were more than 20 rich people in the room, and if each of them invested 10 billion, that would be 200 billion. This was an astronomical figure. Shang Jianping listed a company with a market value of more than 1 billion yuan, which made them envious. But now, compared with Li Changsheng, it was simply not presentable. It was like a child playing house. At this time, Li Changsheng looked at Shang Jianping. Before he could say anything, Shang Jianping rolled his eyes and knelt on the ground. "Mr. Li, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I shouldn't have gone against you. I shouldn't have provoked you so many times. What else did you do wrong? Go on." Li Changsheng only thought that he was funny, so he made a joke. In fact, he didn't want to punish him. However, Shang Jianping was completely panicked and didn't understand. "I shouldn't have stolen your girlfriend." Shang Jianping looked at Zhang Mingming. "I was wrong. I'll change. I'll give Zhang Mingming to you. Just let me go." Zhang Mingming, who had been about to plead with Li Changsheng when she saw Shang Jianping kneeling on the ground, suddenly shuddered. A look of disbelief appeared in her eyes. She exclaimed, "Shang Jianping, what are you talking about?" Even Chen Wan, Su Ying, and Jiang Tao were dumbfounded. Was Shang Jianping still a man? How could he say something like that? Chapter 259. Shang Jianping, had you gone crazy? Chen Wan said loudly. A man would actually abandon his woman to protect himself at this time. This was simply like a beast. Shang Jianping lowered his head and didn't speak. He also knew how shameless he was at this moment, but he didn't want to die. He had long heard about Mr. Li. Many people in Qingzhou University thought that Qin Hao and his son were just missing, but he knew that the father and son were dead. Even the most powerful family in Qingzhou, the Qin family, died without anyone noticing. If Li Changsheng wanted to deal with him, he was nothing. Love was precious, but the price of life was even higher. After losing Zhang Mingming, Shang Jianping could still find another one. But if he lost his life, everything would be gone. "Shang Jianping, you've really disappointed me." Zhang Mingming tried to stop the tears in her eyes and ran out of the box. Hao Ting wanted to comfort her, but in the end, she didn't chase after her. Chen Wan, Su Ying, and Hao Ting looked at Shang Jianping, who was kneeling there, and then looked at Li Changsheng. They finally understood how stupid it was for them to persuade Zhang Mingming to give up Li Changsheng and choose Shang Jianping. Not to mention that Li Changsheng's current status was much higher than Shang Jianping's. Even if Shang Jianping had the most wealth in the world, he would still be despised by others. "Get up." Li Changsheng was somewhat dispirited. Shang Jianping was just an ant in his eyes. So how could he fuss over such a trivial matter? "Now that we're full, we should leave." Li Changsheng looked at Jiang Tao. "I still want to ride in your car, so I want you to be my driver again and help me send you Yue back home." Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Jiang Tao hurriedly nodded. If it was said that Li Changsheng was freeloading in his car in the past, then it was his honor to be in his car now. It was obvious that the cars of these rich people present were much better than Li Changsheng's. As long as Li Changsheng revealed his intentions, they would all hope to have the opportunity to send Li Changsheng back. Jiang Tao, Li Changsheng, and Yu Yue walked out of the room. The main character of today's banquet, Yang Fan, didn't know what to say. He only had a lot of emotions in his heart. Zhang Xiaofeng also felt like he was dreaming. It turned out that Li Changsheng, who was the most ordinary and unprepossessing person in the dormitory, had such an illustrious identity. While Chen Wan felt that it was not worth it for Zhang Mingming, a strong sense of regret rose in her heart. Thinking back to how he had mocked and ridiculed Li Changsheng in the past, and what he had said to Li Changsheng at the birthday banquet, now that he thought about it, it was simply ironic. I always thought that Li Changsheng wasn't worthy of me, but now it's clear that I'm not worthy of him. Isn't he the kind of rich husband that I've always wanted to find? No, it seems that my previous idea of letting him be a spare tire was wrong. I should have directly made him my boyfriend. Chen Wan thought in her heart. On the other side, Su Ying waited until Jiang Tao and the others left before she remembered that no one had sent her home. She couldn't help but stomp her feet in anger. When she ran out, Jiang Tao and the others were nowhere to be seen. Yang Fan, I didn't expect Li Changsheng to be such a big shot. Your dormitory is really full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers. Now tell me, are you a hidden rich second generation? If you can drive a luxury car in front of me, I'll agree to be your girlfriend. Not a Rolls-Royce. Even a BMW like Jiang Tao will be fine. Hao Ting said to Yang Fan in a joking tone. In fact, she didn't have any expectations in her heart. Recently, Yang Fan had been very attentive in front of her. She originally didn't like Yang Fan's family, so she didn't agree. But now, she suddenly thought that Yang Fan might also be a hidden rich second generation. Hearing Hao Ting's words, Yang Fan couldn't help but reveal a bit of a wry smile. He thought that if he was a rich second generation, would he still need to ask Li Changsheng for help to borrow a car for his relative's wedding? Hao Ting obviously also thought of this point. Her eyes couldn't help but reveal a bit of disappointment. She thought that was obviously impossible for Zhang Mengmeng and Li Changsheng. Chen Wan also rejected Li Changsheng at the birthday party. Did that mean that she also had a chance? However, when she thought of Yu Youwei's lovable and lovely appearance, Hao Ting finally shook her head and abandoned her unrealistic thoughts. From another perspective, if she was Li Changsheng, she would probably choose Yu Youwei instead of her. Chen Wan took a taxi and returned home. She was absent-minded all the way. When she entered the door, she saw her father sitting on the sofa and reading the newspaper. "Wan, you're back?" Chen Jicheng had recently adjusted his mentality and returned to his previous elegant appearance. "Wan, what's wrong with you?" Chen Jicheng looked up for the second time and saw Chen Wan's absent-minded appearance. He couldn't help but ask in confusion, "Didn't you go to eat with Yang Fan and the others today? Did someone bully you?" Chen Jicheng frowned. "No." Chen Wan shook her head and looked at her father. "Dad, last time when you came back from the auction, you seemed to be crazy. I kept asking you why, but you didn't tell me. Is it because you know Li Changsheng's identity?" Hearing Chen Wan's words, Chen Jicheng's body suddenly trembled. After a while, he calmed down as if he understood something. He sighed, "It seems that you know Li Changsheng's identity." Chen Wan nodded. "I do know his identity, but father, why did you become like that after knowing his identity? Isn't this something to be happy about? Don't you always want your daughter to marry a rich and powerful man? This Li Changsheng is obviously the best candidate. He has a crush on your daughter. Although I rejected him last time, as long as I am willing to apologize to him and take the initiative to throw myself into his arms, he will definitely break up with the current Yu Youwei and be with your daughter, right?" Looking at Chen Wan's confident appearance, Chen Jicheng opened his mouth, but in the end, there were some words that he couldn't say. When he first knew Li Changsheng's identity, he also thought so. However, at the auction, Li Changsheng had clearly told him that it was a misunderstanding between father and daughter. Li Changsheng didn't like Chen Wan. Chen Jicheng should have told Chen Wan everything, but when he saw his daughter's appearance, he was afraid that his daughter wouldn't be able to bear it. "Forget it. I'll find a chance to tell her tactfully. It's really not appropriate to say it now." Chen Jicheng thought so he kept silent. However, Chen Wan walked into her bedroom with a face full of excitement. After more than half an hour, she came out in beautiful clothes. Especially her face, it was obvious that she had been carefully dressed. She was brighter than usual. "Wan, you just came back. Are you going out again?" Chen Jicheng looked at his daughter in confusion. "Yes, I'm going to find Li Changsheng. I'm going to bring back a rich husband for you, father." After that, she skipped out of the villa. Chen Jicheng was left in a daze. He couldn't help but pat his forehead in annoyance and regret. What a sin. Chapter 260. After carefully dressing up, Chen Wan went out, took a taxi, and went straight to the male dormitory of Qingzhou University. It was already late at night. She stood under the willow tree and sent a text message to Li Changsheng, saying that she was waiting for him downstairs. After accompanying Li Changsheng to send his girlfriend home, Jiang Tao remembered that he had forgotten about Suing, so he went with Jiang Tao to send Suing home. As soon as he entered the dormitory, he heard a WeChat notification. He opened it and saw that it said, I'm waiting for you downstairs. Li Changsheng didn't understand why Chanwan was looking for him in the middle of the night, but he still replied with an okay. He put on his coat and went down the dormitory building. Let's take a walk on the playground. After seeing Li Changsheng, Chenwan's cheeks slightly blushed. Today, she came here to confess to Li Changsheng. As a woman, confessing to a man was indeed a bit embarrassing. However, she knew that once she let go of such an excellent man like Li Changsheng, she would miss him forever. She must catch him quickly. Okay. Li Changsheng nodded. The two came to the playground. At this moment, there was no one on the playground, only the stars in the sky and the rustling of the leaves in the breeze. Why are you looking for me so late at night? Li Changsheng saw Chanwan sitting down on the steps and was somewhat puzzled. He didn't understand why she asked him out in the middle of the night. Li Changsheng, I rejected you at the birthday party that day. In fact, I was testing you. Chanwan summoned up the courage to say such words. She lowered her head and didn't dare to look at Li Changsheng. Her face was full of shyness. After waiting for a long time, she didn't hear Li Changsheng's response. She looked up and saw Li Changsheng's calm expression. You're not happy at all? Chanwan was puzzled. Why should I be happy? Li Changsheng's expression was even more puzzled. What do you want to say? Li Changsheng's voice was a bit indifferent. Originally, he didn't have a good impression of this woman. Now that she knew his identity, she ran over to say such words. Indeed, like father, like daughter. But could it be that her father didn't tell her his intentions? Just as Li Changsheng was puzzled, Chanwan's expression changed several times before she angrily said, Li Changsheng, I'm giving you a chance. I know you like me. In the past, I didn't understand your ability, so I've been testing you. But now that you've passed the test, as long as you agree to break up with Yue tomorrow, I'm willing to be your girlfriend. Li Changsheng, although you look very ordinary, I've discovered that you have your own unique temperament and charm. In fact, I've long been attracted to you. Really? Li Changsheng had a playful look on his face. I'm afraid what attracted you was my identity. What made you change your mind was what happened at the restaurant today. Chenwan, you think too much. Actually, I've never liked you, so I'm sorry. I'm going to waste this opportunity you gave me. After saying that, he walked back to the dormitory without looking back. It's late. It's not safe for a girl to go home alone. It's better for you to sleep in the dormitory. Li Changsheng said from afar. His figure completely disappeared into the darkness. Looking at Li Changsheng until Li Changsheng's figure completely disappeared, Chenwan finally reacted as if she had just woken up from a dream. He just left like that? He said he doesn't like me. How is that possible? I, Chenwan, have the looks and temperament. As long as I nod my head, I don't know how many people are willing to bow down to me. This Li Changsheng, how could he refuse me? What right does he have to refuse me? In the end, Chenwan's face was already covered in tears. She had always wanted to find a powerful and influential boyfriend who had the potential to make her into a rich family. Over the years, since high school, she had been flirting with many rich kids in the school and made friends with them. However, she had never really taken a fancy to anyone. Jiang Tao and Shang Jianping were both considered rich second generations. They were barely able to enter her eyes. However, their family background was not prominent enough and their wealth was not large enough. Until the appearance of Li Changsheng, the famous Mr. Li in Qingzhou. Countless billionaires bowed and bent their knees in front of him. Moreover, someone told her that this person was once her secret admirer. This was simply the best gift given to her by the heavens. But now, with Li Changsheng's departure, her beautiful dream was instantly shattered. She just felt that she had reached heaven, but in the next second, she fell into hell. Li Changsheng, I know you were complaining about my rejection at the birthday party. Come out now. You must be hiding around and watching me, right? As long as you come out, I will promise to be your girlfriend. Otherwise, you will lose me forever. Chenwan hysterically shouted, her voice echoing in the sports field. Only 1 second, 2 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes passed. Still, no one appeared. In the end, she finally despaired. She hugged her knees and squatted on the ground, crying. She came full of hope and went back full of sadness. Until now, she still believed that Li Changsheng had once liked her. Early the next morning, she sent a lot of text messages to Li Changsheng. I was wrong. Let's start again. As long as you are willing, I am yours, and so on. When Li Changsheng opened his eyes in the morning and saw these text messages, he couldn't help but feel helpless to the extreme. He thought to himself, a woman can actually worship money to such an extent. He originally wanted to directly delete her from his friends list, but in the end he didn't do so and just blocked her messages. After getting up, brushing his teeth, and washing his face, Li Changsheng saw that Zhang Xiaofeng and the others were looking at him with fear. He couldn't help but sigh. He knew that from the moment his identity was revealed, it was impossible to go back to the days of the past. On the other hand, although Jiang Tao was a bit uncomfortable with Li Changsheng's new identity, his attitude was obviously different from Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan. First, it was because Jiang Tao himself was originally a rich second generation. Compared to Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan, the gap between him and Li Changsheng was smaller. Another reason was that in Chuzhou City, he and Li Changsheng's relationship was incomparable to Yang Fan and Zhang Xiaofeng's. After running around the field and eating breakfast at the school gate, Li Changsheng returned to the Yuanyi villa. Since he had already recovered the ginseng, it was time for him to start refining pills to improve his cultivation. After returning to the villa, Li Changsheng took out the alchemy furnace that Su Xiaolin gave him last time and put all kinds of medicinal herbs into the furnace before finally taking out the ginseng. Although he didn't find the medicinal catalyst, Li Changsheng thought of another way. He could take out a drop of his essence blood and use it to make medicine. His 9 transformations of the demonic and divine was a peerless martial art that had been tempered by countless lifetimes. It was no exaggeration to say that it was equivalent to a supreme treasure body. A drop of his essence blood was not inferior to any elixir. Using it as a medicinal catalyst could also improve the quality of the elixir. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.